Why?
of beverages.
What do you
I don't want like the.
Mm-hmm. That would be
nice. I know, ladies.
I haven't heard too much nonsense from. Yeah, that's not ever gonna be okay. Like seriously, if you do that, you're off. You're off the show. I have that power. Drinking. There's a couple of guys that I listen to, like their podcasts, and usually they're business dudes, and so they're having meetings and stuff like this.
Oh, that made it to the broadcast. Oh no!
Disgusting. Oh yeah, there it is. I'm seeing it.
Welcome to Smoking Hot Nerds, ladies and gentlemen.
Seeing it live. We'll do it live. Ugh, disgusting. I'm gonna share our broadcast real quick on the Facebook here, so that we're. Oh yeah.
We're only 4 minutes late, so hopefully we're not in trouble on Facebook.
Nah, yeah, right. Last time they got real upset. There we go.
It's like I didn't know Facebook was such a tight ship.
Can you see my? Well, you really can't. My little Funko homage.
Oh,
right here?
you do have.
Hey, there they are.
I moved them.
Funkos.
What do you got up there?
Let's see if I can do it from the super small screen. So we got a Sixer, and then we got the main bad guy, and then IROC. Sorrento. And then IROC.
Which version of him? The in-game version or?
Yeah, his avatar. Yeah,
Okay.
The Superman thing.
Yeah, so his avatar, and then there's a variant Sixer. And then you've got Parzival with a variant Parzival with another variant Parzival. And then Daito and Sho and Artemis, and then a variant Artemis back here. And then here's the 3 keys. And then I think right in here somewhere, I actually got the extra life coin. And I can bring those in closer if anybody wants to see them.
The sheer fact that you have that many just Ready Player One Funkos suggests that you have a lot of Funkos.
Oh yeah. We've talked about this.
Oh, yeah.
It's what's even funnier is I don't know if you notice over my right shoulder here. I finished Star Wars Clone Wars, moved into Star Wars Rebels, and then immediately my brain was like, I bet there's a Funko of that.
You know,
Nick,
you need to come to my house because I can see out my window is a toy store that only carries Funkos.
Really? Yeah. Pump the brakes.
Well, I've heard that there's like the Funko Mecca is up in somewhere near Seattle. It's like their home base or whatever. And when you walk into their store, it's apparently like each room is themed. So there's like a Star Wars room, then there's like a movie room, then there's a like comic book room, then they have like an anime room and all this stuff. So each one is themed. And then of course they've got these like 30-foot tall blown up versions of a single Funko.
Wow. Would you
Someday,
ever buy one of those?
When travel's allowed? Probably not, actually, because it'd be one of those things like, this is great. And then I'd have to live here forever because I can't move it.
Yeah. But
well, that's why you just make your house just live in a giant Funko.
That's true. So it's like step 1, win Powerball. Step 3, Funko house. Step 2, question marks.
And after that, lose
all of it. Instantly.
All your relationships, lose and just devolve into Funko madness.
Oh yeah, it's already
sounds great. Please have a YouTube channel while you do all of that.
Yeah,
I love me to stream
the devolution of Nico.
Oh, and then
get tattoos.
It's like black. Right there.
And then black contacts, so that everything is you're just got 2 big eyeballs.
There's like shark eyes.
Yeah.
Like all the guys with the crazy, like the prison guys with the weird face tattoos, and then you will be on that list. That would be wonderful.
What are the variants of the Artemis Funkos? What are the
Artemis one is it's a copper, so it's just all copper colored. And then the Sixer is like a patinaed, like a green copper, and then Parzival has like a weathered tin, so it's that bronzy blue. And then there's also the Invisible. he's clear.
Are the colored ones sort of like? Are they supposed to be? Is that from the movie or from the book, or are they just for fun? There's like, let's just make a green one.
The clear one is from the book because there's a point where he gets like an invisibility thing. Let's see if my headphones reach.
Harry Potter predators himself.
Yeah, right. So for those of you who don't know, so we're talking about Ready Player One tonight, and so we're curious about. Oh, okay, cool. About his Funkos. The actual Artemis or the Parsifal one is cool. Yeah, it's really
they're really good.
Let's see the Artemis ones.
Matt just wants to see the hot chick.
Wow, just pretty adorable.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Yeah. And so the bronze one, is that something from the book or something, or
No, it's just a way to make money.
oh
Yeah. It's like a way to make people like Nick buy it twice.
yeah.
Exactly.
So of the four of us, two of us have read the book and two of us have not. Unless, Eric, I'm wrong. Have you read the book?
It's like, read? Nah.
I don't read.
What's a book? What happened?
What's up? Book?
It's a spaghetti.
I mean, I listen Reddit. I'm an Audible fiend, so
Oh, that's cool.
so I got to listen to Will Wheaton for 12 hours, or however long that book was.
How did that go?
You know, he
that's
wasn't
cool.
bad.
Oh, it's okay, Will Wheaton. I
But
just
the
see him
funny
on the
thing
Big
is
Bang Theory here and there, and not that I watch it, but
The funny thing is,
like-
the book takes shots at Will Wheaton, which is funny.
Oh, nice.
well, yeah, you have to.
Hey. Oh, that's cool.
Nice.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Do you have it in a specialty case?
Yeah, well, the people, the place that pressed it put it in a protective case.
For those listening, he's showing us his Ready Player One extra life coin.
Spoilers.
Right, yeah,
If
definitely.
you don't want spoilers, then flip to the last 10 seconds of this podcast.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why we don't have as many viewers as I would like. Because
we
maybe
just
we just
spoil
spoil
everything?
everything. Maybe if we didn't do so many spoilers, we'd have more than 4.
Let's talk as vaguely as possible about this movie, and not even mention any of the things that they are talking about and all the references.
Right.
Let's
man.
somehow, like, it's not Back to the Future, it's that time travel show with that neat car made out of aluminum or whatever.
You know how that would go. Like, all right, so tonight on Smoking Hot Nerds, Ready Player One. Well, thanks for listening to Smoking Hot Nerds. We're done with Ready Player One.
Crickets.
Remember that pop culture thing that they had?
Remember that one reference and then that one guy from that one movie when he showed up? That was awesome.
Remember that?
That one guy that's directed all those movies, well, he directs this one too.
Right? Yeah.
And then that reference about the other guy that directed movies, and he puts it in a cube of sorts. Yeah,
This would be a terrible
Look,
podcast. I
look.
think we just lost listeners.
yeah. I already just totally bombed this entire thing. All right,
So Ready Player One.
Fire it up.
Well, I
Oh,
was
there's no crow. There's no crow. Sorry,
no
cut
crow.
that part out.
What?
Was there any crow? I'm just gonna think of everything I can think of.
In Ready
There-
Player One?
I'm sure. Well, there's a scene where somebody's gone through in the final battle and like frame by frame did one of those like mosaic pictures where you get like the 200 people and then they do the outlines with all the numbers and then on the back of it it's like every reference ever. So I wouldn't be surprised if there was some sort of crow in there somewhere.
I'm
Or in,
gonna
like, the
assume there's a
nightclub.
crow. Let's
Yeah, I
just
would.
say
Let's
there
say
was a
yes.
I would,
Total
for
crow.
sure.
I think I'm sure there was somewhere.
There were that's the whole gist of the movie. You know, we talk a lot about how we just got this massive pop culture arousal, sort of nostalgia thing going on. I guess there's nostalgia is sort of the through line of pop culture right now, and so we're super into 80s stuff right now. That's the big thing. I mean, it's been going on for a couple years now, a few years now.
been
People
a
are super
while.
into it. But Ready Player One, the book came out in 2011. So to think about that, I mean, we're creeping up on 10 years now that it's actually been out. I mean, I'm sure he worked on it for a couple years before he even released it. So,
Absolutely.
it's a decade now in the works.
Well, yeah, they sold the movie rights in 2010 before the book came out.
Really?
Yeah.
Who bought the movie rights to it?
I think it was Warner Brothers.
Yeah.
Yeah, whoever put it out. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, they had all that Harry Potter money. I'm sure that they were just snapping up like any sci-fi nostalgia YA novel possible.
They were flush with cash about then.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. But it was good. I really enjoyed it. And having not ever read the book, or I knew nothing about it going into it. I didn't know. I just knew kind of video games, pop culture was kind of a through line, but that was it. I knew nothing about it whatsoever. So I was pleasantly surprised going in blindly. Eric, what did you think?
Well, I'm trying to think. I rewatched it. I did watch it in the theater, and I was having a hard time remembering what I thought about it. And so I said, I better rewatch this because I might poop on it and then regret it.
Yeah.
So now I'll just lightly poop in areas.
That's fair. Yeah.
Find
Just gotta
the
poop
nicely
in little
placed
spots.
pads here and there.
Yeah,
Go there.
exactly.
Go where you're told to
Yeah,
go.
give me a puppy pad
Yeah.
and I will deliver on mark. No, I rewatched, and I think my summation is, you know what? It's a fun movie, and it's fine. It's totally it's enjoyable, and it's still Spielberg, so he knows how to do all the things, and he does them. He dots his I's and crosses his T's and whatever, and it is incredibly Willy Wonka in a lot of ways.
Oh yeah.
It's I don't know. It's everything. It's nostalgia, the movie. It's reference, the movie,
Absolutely.
strung together with little adventure and two varying plots that go back and forth between real world and cyber world. There's Cybertron. Is Cybertron in this? I don't think Cybertron makes it.
There are Transformers,
Yeah.
but no reference to Cybertron in particular.
Right. Gonna have to
Oh,
bring it down.
-1.
Yeah.
Just
One more thing
lost
to
a star. Well, the pop culture references where I thought going into what I knew about it, that it was going to be this constant barrage that was going to get real annoying, because that's one of the things that's like a huge pet peeve in movies is, I think it was it Civil War when Spider-Man says something like, remember that really old movie Empire Strikes Back when they hid underneath the thing? It was like, yeah, no, that's not how you reference a movie in a movie. Like, that's just not at all. Not to mention that it's one of the most famous movies of all time, and no one would ever reference it as that really old movie. So
he's not talking about Gone with the Wind.
right,
Yeah.
or an obscure, or you remember that really weird old movie Vampire's Kiss? That would work, but not Empire
And
Strikes
everybody
Back.
would be like, no, I
No,
don't know that
I
movie.
don't.
Actually, nope.
just Eric as of 3 weeks ago.
Morbius in this movie?
And I would yell out in the theater, "I do, Spider-Man!" And I would actually have the teeth in.
But throughout this, because it was built on this world that everybody loved pop culture, and that's pretty much all you had left in society by whatever it was, 2046 or whatever.
Somewhere in there.
That's all you had left. So people talked about it with a language that worked, and the reference to everything just made sense to me. I really liked it from that standpoint. But you guys who've read the book, how did you feel about it the first time you saw it?
There are a lot of differences, like a lot of differences.
Yeah.
The same basic story was there. There was one big thing that was like a direct swap. They just more or less did the same thing, but with a different character. But I liked it. It didn't really bother me that they changed stuff, because I think I get why they did most of the things that they did that were very, very different. I really liked it. Like, to echo what Eric said, I think that movie just does a very good job of what movie's number one purpose is just to entertain. It was just, it's a total popcorn movie. It's like right up Spielberg's alley. That's what he's best at. I mean, don't get me wrong, he's good at a lot of things, but this kind of movie, this is what he's, this is what he built his career on. This kind of movie. the things didn't bother me. A lot of it looked kind of how I'd imagined. There were some things I wish they would have done, like which I know partially is because they only had 2.5 hours, but there was a lot more world building in the book, and like the Oasis, like they made the Oasis seem really big and vast in the movie, times 10 in the book. Some of the things they did, because pretty much basically everyone completely lived their lives in the Oasis in the book, which they touched on that in the movie, but it was even more than that. Like most people's jobs were in the Oasis in the book. Kids went to school in the Oasis in the book.
Wow. What was the big switcheroo? The big change?
Artemis in the book,
He's,
Parzival is the
Grover
one.
Cleveland.
Huh?
Think. The main character is Grover Cleveland.
Yeah.
Like for real? An analogy for?
In the book, Parzival is the one that goes to the loyalty center, but he doesn't. He basically goes in there instead of Artemis to go in there to basically get rid of the orb of Osavox that takes it down so that everybody get in the castle. He goes in voluntarily. He doesn't get caught.
Gotcha.
What he does is he basically hides his money and racks up debt so that they come and arrest him, put him in there. He does what he needs to do, and then suddenly, I can pay off my debt, and leaves. Whereas Artemis, and then like the whole resistance thing that Artemis was part of, that really wasn't in the book that I remember.
It's not as big. It's not as much of a vehicle in the book.
Yeah. But yeah, that was the big switch, is like Artemis isn't the one that went in, and they don't actually meet till the end of the book.
In real life,
That's
or even in
real life? Yeah. No, they together in Oasis, but they don't actually meet because basically by the end of the book, it was Parzival, Artemis, H, Diato, and Sho. They were the ones. They were like the final five that were fighting, and they basically Og comes in and like rescues them after Parzival gets out, and they takes him to his house, and they play the last challenge like all in his house basically. But that was the
drama at the end, right?
Yeah, like so I totally get why they did most of the things.
Yeah. And it could be bothersome, except the fact that the author of the book also co-penned the screenplay. So I always can go along with that if it's like, okay, he wants to make a change to his own book, and that's okay with me. You know what I mean? Like that is a little bit better than when they're just like totally destroy Huckleberry Finn. It's like, well, yeah, Mark Twain wasn't here to help you with that, so that's annoying.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? Now it's got vampires. Deal with it.
Huckleberry's Kiss. Yeah. Starring Nick Cage and Val Kilmer.
How long do I have to paint this freaking fan?
Huckleberry Finn with a stick. How original. That was the worst joke I've ever told. Nico, what'd you think? I don't even know what that was.
I was like,
went out on a limb. Well, he always had a stick with him. He was
on
always...
a limb.
Yeah.
There you go. You brought it back.
Yep. Oh boy.
So it's been a while since I read the book, but I knew when I read the book, because I'm not a big reader. I've said this before, but when I got the book, I actually got it in like a Loot Crate, not a sponsor, and I set it aside, and I was like, this is a weird addition to that delivery service. This is a weird thing to have in there. Is a book, because it's normally like a keychain or a coffee cup or a T-shirt, like it's nerdy stuff. So this book came, and I was like, man, I don't know. So I actually set it aside, thinking like, there's no way.
Like, what's this?
Yeah, it was like a book. Ugh.
Paper?
So
can I put it on my phone?
I think I was going on. I think I was going on some work trips, some travel to like New York City or something like that. So it's like a 3.5 hour flight or some nonsense. And I think I brought it. And I think that first night, because my first nights in New York City were nothing, I think I read it on the plane, got there, and then I finished it in the hotel. Yeah. It was just it and it's not, I mean, it's a good book and it's a good movie. They're definitely different. But when I was reading the book, I was thinking, I want to see this. But then I also was like, man, there's a lot of this I don't want to see. Just because it plays well in text, but would never play well on a screen. Like there's a part in the book, and I want to do too much book movie comparison, but there's a part in the book. Okay, that's fair. So there's a part in the book where he he after the first challenge, he gets a bunch of money, which is in the movie. But then he like moves to this exclusive high rise for gunters and egg hunters
In the real world.
in the real world. Yeah, he moves and then he starts masking his location, and so he doesn't stay in the van. Like he moves to this high rise, but then it's like I don't remember exactly, but I think it's an extensive amount of time between the first and second challenge because they just don't know. Like it's not that easy, and it's definitely not what the second challenge is in the movie. So it's this extensive amount of time.
What was the second challenge in the movie?
The second challenge of the movie is The Shining. It's based off of the wife, and then they go to the movie, and then inside the movie is his first game, which is a zombie thing. And this isn't 100% correct, but I think in the book,
Blade Runner,
right? But there's something before that too, where like he goes to, and it's not The Shining, but it is like some old Atari or like Commodore 64 horror adventure game. Or something in like a White House, or I can't remember. I'd have to reread it to be honest. But anyway, I'm reading it. When I was reading, I was like, oh my God, just like, come on. And then finally it happens. Even like the extra life coin, he does not get by betting the caretaker. He gets the extra life coin by beating his high score in Pac-Man. Like he goes to the library thing. And he's like, it's got to be here. He loved our old school arcade games, so he goes.
About
and
the
sees,
Willy Wonka guy. What's his name?
Yeah. No, now that you said it.
Holiday.
Holiday.
James Holiday.
James Holiday. So right. So he loves. So he goes to his library.
Huckleberry. There you go.
And they show it in the when they walk him in. They show like this bank of arcades, and he goes up there and he starts playing Pac-Man. Because I guess that, it was one of those, like, they did it in the movie, too, where it's like, oh, it's Halliday's third favorite, blah, 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 all that kind of nonsense. So he says something like that. He goes, and he sees that there's a quarter there, meaning, like, somebody's waiting to play. So he's like, well, give it a shot. So I think he either gets to the crash screen or he beats his score, and the coin falls off, and he just puts it in his pocket, doesn't think about it. Like, the whole caretaker thing is for the movie. It is because in the book, Ogden Morrow is present. Like he runs that dance club that they go to. Like he's this wizard and he's flying around, and when the Sixers bust in, he like banishes them. And so he's much more prevalent in the book than he is in the movie, or he has a different role. The caretaker's not really a thing. So there's a lot of that type of stuff. But again, when you're reading it, it's like, I don't want to watch this.
Right.
Like it's just not good to watch. So I went into the movie knowing that they were going to have to make some huge changes. And when I first saw it, I was like, but then I was like, no, I'm okay with this. Because like the race was great. And, tying in the whole, really like picking into Halliday's brain about who is James Halliday, and then like uncovering his past. I thought that was a great, like, it's his challenge, for his idea. You're basically living in his brain. So understand the brain kind of thing. So that kind of stuff, I was like, I'm fine with this. And then, the pacing, the speed up of it, I was okay with all of it. But and they're definitely, the changes are totally fine. So you could go into this movie, no knowledge of the book whatsoever, and just be full boat entertained. But if you think you bounce back and forth, no, you're gonna have to like do a little reset, because like the first challenge is not a race. It's
he has to play.
He has to play joust, but he has to play.
Yeah.
Parsifal goes to high school. It's like James Halliday High School or something like that, and that's where he meets H. Is in high school. That's where we meet IROC, who plays literally no part in the book other than like the high school bully kind of thing. But he is not he's not that antagonist constantly hunting him like the movie. So he meets H there, and I can't remember exactly how he figures out that it's in his high school, but it's like on the grounds of his high school. And when he goes there, he isn't actually the first one to find it. Artemis is already there in the Oasis and is trying to solve it. And so he goes there and he plays Joust, which I guess was his favorite game. But I guess Halliday, I'm going to screw this up. I think Halliday had like an older brother or something. And because of that, Halliday always had to play second player. So that's like the twist that unlocks it, is that they do first player lose, get kicked out. Do first player lose, get kicked out. So he's like, well, maybe. So he tries player 2 and he wins, and then he gets the key. But they do a lot more stuff in the book too, where like once a thing has been uncovered, the Sixers come in to just shut it down and basically just like block everybody else from doing it. And they just constantly feed in Sixers to get it, and just fill it up. So it makes it impossible for anybody but the high five really to progress in the event of hope of locking them out from the final challenge kind of thing.
Now, so
it's like when I start eating popcorn and other food wants to get in my mouth, and I'm like, it's not happening.
Yeah.
Boom, 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 boom.
It's all popcorn. Sorry, folks.
or if somebody else wants a little bit of your popcorn, that's just definitely not happening.
Yeah.
Why would you even
Then
ask?
I'm King Kong. Ah!
Yeah, they do. They also carry a lot of, because I mean they mention Joust in the very end of the movie when they're talking about what games to play. One guy's like, they should play Joust. So they didn't totally abandon it. They just kind of slipped it in other places.
Yeah.
Which is
Well,
pretty
that
clever.
makes a little more. It's maybe a little of a better thought, because I feel like in the race, I don't know. Maybe we should give a quick rundown of what this movie is, but maybe not. But in the race, I feel like it's been how long? So the creator, just for people watching, if you haven't seen it, there's this world, and the creator of this oasis.
It was like a Steve Jobs,
guy.
Elon Musk super genius type
Mark
thing.
Rylance plays this real weirdo dude.
So good.
I love his take on him. He's just so like awkward.
Yeah.
And
He's great.
so he like dies, and he films himself telling everyone, "Hey, in the Oasis, I'm dying. If you're seeing this, I'm gone, and I'm planting these 3 keys that you have to find, and you have to know everything about me. So keep worshiping me, everybody," which is kind of weird.
I never thought of it
and
that
then
way,
if
but
you
yeah.
get these keys, there's totally this weird worship stuff that happens
Yeah.
with this guy. If you get my keys, then you can essentially take over the Oasis, and you have the power, which is like billions of dollars. You essentially like run the world,
Yeah.
right?
His company is like the most profitable thing ever.
Well, yeah, right. Because like Brian said, like it's literally the world. So in the movie, when people are like not wearing visors or out and about in public, that's very rarely mentioned in the book. It's like everyone just is in their apartment houses or whatever. They work there. They're constantly plugged in.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the thing I liked and I kind of missed a little bit is like when Parzival gets the first key, because there's a bunch of different planets, which they'd say it a little bit in the movie, but there's a bunch of different planets. And basically, once Parzival gets first key and gets all this money, he gets his own place in the real world, which is literally, they kind of describe it's just a big box because you live in the Oasis. And then he basically gets his own planet in Oasis, and he has his own house, and that's how he lives his life. And the other thing they did is like Halliday recreated so much of his own life in the Oasis, like that one of the houses he goes to where the second challenge is. I think that's like an exact replica of his childhood house, which I know
I think
they
that's
show
what
at
it
the
was.
end
Yeah,
of it. Yeah. But yeah, like Nick's right. Like I think there's years that go by in the book before it's
That
finally over.
makes more
Yeah.
sense. Right?
Yeah, because the clue is not as. I mean, this clue is also very vague, but the clue in the book is also just it's super vague. It's just they really have to unpack a lot, and that's why it takes them so long. To the point where they're just like, you said the word "the," so let me go look at everything in this arcade that starts with "the." It gets that like desperate for them to do it.
Right, as opposed to in the movie where it's like it took them 5 years for someone to just drive backwards in a race. I feel like in the video game world, someone would have done that probably within the first, I don't know, 3 hours.
In today's date, because you think about in our world now, I think there's games that get released, and then if you look on YouTube, like a day later, somebody's already hacked like the money system or found a skip to the end, or so there are people just data mining like crazy into this stuff. So that's the only part, like in today's world, we're like, maybe not, but for a movie, I could totally skip it. I totally disbelieve it.
Whatever.
Yeah.
But I am glad they added the race because that was pretty badass.
It was.
Yeah. Super good touch.
I was super hooked right out the gate because of that, where so you know that how I am with CG and with violence in particular with movies. This was one of those great examples of where CG actually creates the movie and actually makes the movie make sense. Where when you're combining live action with CG, and when it's it's superheroes fighting aliens or CGI people or whatever, and it's just all this fighting and violence and fighting and violence. That's a totally different ball game, and it just borderlines just kind of a world I don't really care much for. In this instance, everything is a video game. So when you're not in the real world, you're in a video game, and everybody's an avatar, and so it just feels like a video game. So all that stuff was was just so well constructed and well done. But that first race, when they're going through, and especially when he discovers to go backwards and he's driving underneath the race the entire time, that was super cool. Like it was that's where you look at it and you're like, this is what CGI was built for. This is what it was created for, was to give us this, for me to be immersed in a world that is not completely real. So I buy that the whole thing is real.
It's not trying to fool us. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
To touch on that, like, have you guys watched any special features of the movie?
Mm-mm.
I love special features, but they were talking about the making of it, and they had all the actors did all the mocap and everything, and it shows them like acting in the mocap room, so it's just like super weird. They're all just wearing weird suits. It's a big white soundstage. But the cool thing they did on this movie was they had the sets, like rough versions of the sets on there, so Spielberg could put on a headset and watch it all in real time.
Whoa.
Watch the animation with a headset on, and that's how he would plan shots.
Wow.
It was so.
It was like VR, really.
Wow.
He's getting a VR feed, and they're being fed in on top of that VR feed.
So then he's got the camera, or like a fake camera that's plugged in, right? So it's like he can see the actors in the space, plan how he's
Yeah.
I mean, technically it's AR, augmented reality, but yeah.
That's crazy.
It was pretty awesome.
Well, and that I'm looking forward to watching some of that. But that's one of the things about the movie that we've watched a lot of movies in the last 15 weeks, and as we usually do. But one of the things that when we watch a terrible movie, like one that I just watched last night that we will never talk about on this, but was just mind blowing that this movie even got made. But then when you watch Spielberg, you take him, he's kind of like your parents. He's like your family. You take him for granted. And then you watch a Spielberg movie and you're like, oh, that's why he's the master. It's perfectly planned story. It's got all the right things. It's got all the proper earmarks of a story. And then the shots are just perfect. They're perfectly laid out. The cinematography is on point. Everything about the lighting is amazing. So it's a masterclass. Every single one of his films is just a masterclass on filmmaking, and this one was no different. It was just shot so beautifully well, and the real life looked different enough and real enough for you to buy that you would want to live in the oasis as opposed to face real life. It didn't feel contrived and weird. It did feel like I don't want to live in Ohio.
They didn't necessarily go like dystopian future either. I mean, they have the stacks, but that's just like a population thing.
But they start the movie off with him just going, we all just stopped fighting the problems and decided to run away from them. That was the basic gist of it.
Right.
Where he's like, we all got lazy and tired, and now we just want to live in this fake world. Like, that's kind of where we're at now. Like, that makes a lot of sense. Kind of like WALL-E,
Yeah. The movie's super good. It's especially when you break it down to what it is. It's a treasure hunter puzzler. It's like a national treasure, but the vehicle that it goes in is using computer stuff. And they did a great job of having, I would assume, technical consultants come in and just advise on like game theory and instead of saying things like gigawatt, like making technology mistakes. They did a really good job of scoping that out.
And I love that there wasn't, like when we were talking about the pop culture references working, there was never any discussion about the DeLorean or it lived in the kind of world that we would live in. So if the four of us were like, okay, we're gonna play this game where you can literally have any vehicle you want and anything else you want, it would just become rote that, you know, Brian would have the DeLorean, I would probably have the Millennium Falcon. I don't know what you guys would. I don't know if you could have any vehicle. What would it be?
Oh man,
yeah.
that.
And if it's just one.
Well, just one for now. You know, I'm guessing Brian, you go DeLorean, but that would just be my guess.
Yeah.
Oh come
Yeah,
on, you're guessing my ass.
Well, you know, like that was another like small difference in the book. I'm assuming they couldn't get Ghostbusters. His DeLorean in the book was the Back to the Future DeLorean, but it was painted like the Ecto one.
Oh, really? Nice.
Yeah.
That's great. That's awesome.
It was a nice touch.
Yeah. No, on second thought, I think I'd go with an X-wing. That's what I would do. Just a little.
Is that your-
Yeah.
is that
go
your- well, you can have
X-wing.
multiples, man. You can have a plane. You can have a car.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Be cool.
I don't know if I would. I've thought about this.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie.
Oh, I'm sure.
As I look around my crazy menagerie up here, the TARDIS actually sticks out to me a little bit.
Oh, yeah. That's a good one.
The TARDIS would be a little sneaky one, I think.
Yeah.
But then I'm looking at like at least 3 slave ones. So
Yeah.
These are options 2 and 3. The
definitely
TARDIS and the Batmobile.
Definitely.
Yeah, I just do
Ah.
a drop ship from Aliens, I guess.
Yeah.
Which Aliens is featured.
Is it?
Couple
But
times.
yeah, I saw this last night. The gun that Artemis first uses during the main battle is the battle rifle from Alien.
Is,
It's even got the sound, and this is the one thing I want to talk about too. When I first
Yeah,
read
pulse
this
rifle.
book, when I first read this book, one of the main thoughts was, I want to see this movie. There's no way they can make this movie. It is going to cost so much in licensing fees and rights and visual rights and likeness fees. It is going to cost so much money to do this that I'm almost honestly curious if, when it first got announced as a movie, people were like, we're going to make so much money. And then they found out Spielberg was attached, and they're like, how do we get in this movie?
Yeah.
It almost got flipped of like, no, I need to be in this movie. We need our product. We need our franchise. We need our stuff in this movie.
That's what helps bring them in, of course, but it also helps that your director also directed some of the most iconic movies of all time.
Well, yeah.
So there's that too, you know, and all of his friends directed all the other ones that he didn't direct. So it really works. Yeah.
Yeah. But
it's like if he didn't direct, he produced them. His name's on damn near all of them somehow.
There was no Star Wars reference, is there?
there's
the Millennium Falcon part. They talk about
to the
that.
Millennium Falcon.
Yeah.
They have a TIE fighter sound when they're going to the club. There is a TIE fighter in like the string of cars waiting to get in.
Oh, there is.
And I think
I don't remember that.
I think there's an R2D2. I know I've seen it somewhere. In like the many times that I've watched it, like click, click, click.
Yeah.
He's in there somewhere, I think.
I'm really mad I couldn't watch it again today. Now I just really want to watch it again.
I know. I watched a little bit of it again today just because I got a new sound bar in.
Ooh.
Yeah. So I went all in on the OLED TV last week. Then I went semi all in with the Atmos, or not Atmos, I guess it's Dolby Atmos soundbar. So just the soundbar with the subwoofer.
Nice.
And but the sound bar is designed with upward firing speakers as well, so it creates a virtual 7.1 surround sound feel. If you get the rear speakers, then you can have an almost true 7.1 because it's kind of like center channel, you know, and so kind of 3.1 really. But it's cool, man, and like the sound was so I was like, well, I needed to check out Ready Player One first and just
it's a good one to do it.
Yeah, great one to do it for. Sounded amazing, obviously, but then I watched Rogue One part of the way through just to kind of get a feel for that, and then watched Molly's Game. I was bouncing around a lot today.
That's an interesting collection of movies.
Well, I was kind of doing multiple things. So iTunes, I think hands down, if you have Apple TV, using iTunes is the best way to watch movies streaming. The resolution is the best, like the colors are the best. I think it's the most representative of everything. And so I was bouncing in between that, and then I popped Rogue One, the 4K Blu-ray in, and watched like the first 10 minutes, and then watched the first 10 minutes over again on Disney Plus to see if I could
Oh, the
notice, if I could
difference?
spot any differences. And strangely enough, the sound was a little bit better from the 4K Blu-ray, but the picture was actually better streaming. And
Really?
Yeah, really, really, really surprised about that. The color, the whites were just sharper and poppier. The blacks were the same. Everything's the same. Color was pretty much the same. I would say the color was a little more consistent, but to the naked eye, like really virtually no difference if you're, nitpicking. So I'm sending that back because, I mean, I'm not going to watch 4K Blu-rays like ever. I'm not going to commit to Blu-rays when everything's at your fingertips. But then I was like, well, I want to watch something that's got dialogue. And I was on Netflix and I wanted to see what Netflix looked like. And of the 3 streaming services, I think Netflix looked a little like not as good as the rest. But Molly's Game's kind of an interesting movie. I've watched it before, but watching it again, I was like, oh, this is very entertaining. It's Sorkin. Sorkin wrote it and directed it, and so it's very quippy, but it's got Idris Elba plays a lawyer, her lawyer, so it's really interesting. Oh, but it's got Jeremy Strong in it, so that made me giggle when he popped up. I forgot he was in that movie. Like, what was it? Said, oh, Jeremy Strong character, and Eric, what was your reaction? It was just like, ugh. Love that.
It was probably that.
So funny. Anyways, that was my big long tangent to say that movie looks.
And you have nice
great.
stuff. I get.
Well, yeah, it's true. But the movie looked great on all my nice stuff.
Yeah,
sounded great. So one of the big issues with the movie, though, I read a bunch of articles just about when the movie came out and stuff, is people were they felt like it turned Artemis into the damsel in distress and made it a fully masculine story about and basically just turned her into eye candy for the movie. What was her character like in the book that was different from the film that would make people think or feel that way?
Well, they don't describe her as sexy as the avatar that they created, because she's trying to stay unnoticed.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's her whole thing, is she is present in there, but she's not as adult as she is in the movie. Like,
she
they
was
definitely
her
sexed her
avatar's
out.
not as flashy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
That's what you're saying.
right.
and she was just like an influencer in the book. That they played that up a lot more, which is how they all knew who they were. I know they touched on it a little bit in the movie, but that was like a big thing they talked about in the book. And I think part of it was that in the movie they made her be the one that had to go into loyalty center, so they had to bust her out, which that didn't happen.
Yeah,
Right.
and maybe that might be right. That might be the damsel in distress thing, but I don't ever feel like she was in danger.
Well, but that's
Or
what
that
made
she
me.
in
was
the movie.
incapable. Yeah, that she couldn't handle her own. I think they.
Right.
I think the
She comes across
character-
like a badass to me.
Yeah, she kind of went out of her
100%.
way because they were like, all right, we got you out of your little prison cell. And she stops them and says, well, hang on a second, I've got a better idea. And sort of goes into the mouth of the lion, willingly to go in there and fight it. And she kidnaps him to bring him, into the resistance a bit and sort of. So there's just a lot of things that she does. I thought she was a great character. Extremely well acted. I didn't buy like when they're avatars and and Z/Wade is falling in love with her, and she's like, look, this is not what I look like in real life. You're gonna be disappointed. And then flash to him seeing like this mega hottie with a little birthmark on her face. I was like, yeah, I mean, I'll let it go, but still,
makeup.
That's in the book as
Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
but it's not as. That's like having Rachel Lee Cook and she's all that, like, oh, what a dog, like, get the hell out of here.
Yeah, it's like, stop it. Yeah.
Well, it's
But
like
my one gripe with the because you brought it up was when they kidnap Wade, that scene there, like the guy who grabs him and like chloroforms him, I just hate that scene.
Oh yeah.
Because he like creeps up from behind him, like puts him in a chokehold, and where is he looking? Right into camera. Like,
yeah, that's kind of weird. I mean,
it's just
a
it's
cut,
so.
but,
It's when he went.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't need all that.
I don't
Yeah,
need
it was
that
just
guy.
that's the one thing that when I every time I see it, I'm like, oh, here's this stupid part. Okay, all right.
Do you look away? So you
I don't
have to
look
watch it.
away, but I'm definitely just like,
Do you cover your Funko Pop's eyes? Don't look at this part.
don't look, it's terrible. But no, I do like that they actually kept in the fact that Sorrento blows up the stacks, because I remember reading in the book, I was like, that's dark. Holy crap! Because it's not just his family that dies. Like that whole string of people die.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm glad they kept that in, because it's just like, that's dark, man. That's in this lighthearted, haha, like you just killed like 50 people.
It definitely needed some stakes, and I felt like, unlike some movies that just kill off main characters to create stakes, this did have some of that. I would have just liked to have seen a little bit more of the relationship between him and his aunt and her boyfriend being more than just the typical, like, you know, what we usually see in movies where the kind of abusive boyfriend sort of thing. It would have been nice to see just a little bit more of that, because it gives his character more reason for the escape, more reason to want to, you know, leave his real life and live his life. Yeah,
because he's kind of like it's kind of like a Cinderella scenario where they basically just like, we have you, but we didn't want you. And that's why he goes and he builds his little like van cave to go to high school and stuff, is because he just can't be in the house. Like he's not only getting away, he literally has to get away to get away. So they do talk that up a little bit more in the book. There is more of like a Cinderella type thing in there, where it does paint a very unhappy home type picture of why he constantly is just like, I'm out of here. Like for days, he'll disappear to the van kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I assume,
go ahead.
I assume that's probably just for time, because like we're gonna kill him off halfway through anyway.
Yeah.
Well, they do enough. They did a good job of giving you enough reason to have it understand, where, you know, the boyfriend basically wipes out their savings for one single event.
Right.
That was like, they've been obviously working for with literal money to get out, and they wipe it out, and you're like, oh, what a bee. And then he hits him, and they say, call the cops. She's like, I can't. And so they do enough in that like 10 minutes of screen time to be like, oh, I get it. Yeah. I wouldn't want to be there either, kind of thing.
I think the tricky thing with that though is then they die, and you're kind of like, all right. And like his character and nobody really cares, you know, beyond kind of going, oh yeah, some people got murdered. Well, what's next in the Oasis? And I feel like,
sure,
if there's a bigger point to this movie, and it's Artemis trying to say, hey, there's bigger stuff at stake here, but even the bigger things at stake are still just about the game, which again, I get the game rules Earth, rules the real world, I guess. And I think that was kind of my confusion with all of this, was like, how much world still functions? Like you see people that are still in offices, and there's still kind of school. So yeah, it was a little confusing to say, you know, it's the point of this movie for people to unplug and go, hey, we have to fix our crappy reality. But it's like, nah, not really. They didn't really get into that. So I feel like that was a surfacey thing that, again, this movie, I don't expect it to go there, but it kind of brings these things up and then just kind of goes,
well, I think some of that stuff was literally done for effect, for the movie. Like the during the Planet Doom battle, when like the Japanese businessman gets killed and he goes to jump out the window. Like that's just for effect. That's just for like visual comedy, and it's, I don't even think that's in the book kind of thing. It's just like, it's there to give you a sense of how ingrained the Oasis is. Like he may be wearing a suit in his office, which again, they don't really talk about that. Like everybody just literally lives in their trailers or in their homes, which is why the stacks is even a thing. Cause it's like, we don't need mansions. I can go have a digital mansion. I just need an internet connection and probably some AC, maybe, and a functional toilet. Like that's it. You know, the whole
awesome diaper.
right. The whole like outside world
Best.
thing is really just kind of
Haptic diaper.
he just doesn't go into it in the book because it's not necessarily part of it. Like
Yeah.
he definitely influences a lot that the real world is not the place it should be, and especially when the Oasis is anything you want it to be.
Mhm.
So it's like, why? You know, it's that kind of tone, which again wouldn't translate well to film. So it'd be hard to
We
watch.
created that sort of that feeling though that I want a movie to do, or a book for that matter, where we were kind of talking about it just before you guys hopped on. Brian and I were where watching Blade Runner, you kind of watch it and you're like, wow, that was a good movie, and then you watch it again and you're like, oh, noticing some things. And then by the third time you're going, what if I did love a robot? And it was that's what this movie was doing for me. It was going
Right.
because we do live our lives to a certain extent on our phones, and here, and especially now with everything else that's happening on Earth, where we live so much of our lives through this kind of contact through Skype and Zoom and whatnot. So what would it be like to live this way, to really live this way, to actually fall in love in a virtual world, and to have that feeling that I really want to meet you, and maybe I can't because maybe you are a dude living in someone's basement on the other side of the world, or whatever.
Named Chuck.
Yeah, exactly. So it's
Named
interesting. Yeah. Now, question though was H a girl in the book?
Yep.
Yeah. So
that's
all
like,
that stuff
that's
is
like
normal.
a big that is a big, I don't want to call it a twist because that's mean, but that's like a big thing
reveal.
that they kept over, or to reveal that they kept over from the book, is that it's a black female from Detroit that does play a augmented character, or augmented avatar. It's not a 1-to-1. So they did a good job with that, in my opinion. I don't, in my head space, that's not what H looked like. It's never going to be, but I'm not mad at the decision they made. I thought that was super cool, the way that they handled that.
Me too. Yeah, it's interesting.
Now, so one thing, so in the movie, do they all live in Ohio? Like, I get that they set up that like it's become this kind of mega city because that's where Holiday was from, right?
I was a little
like-
confused too that everyone was suddenly in.
Like, oh, that's
Columbus.
convenient. They all
Yeah.
live 3 blocks away. From
No,
Yeah.
like I think so. Brian, you have to help me out here. So Parsival lives in Ohio.
No, it's Oklahoma City.
Is it Oklahoma City?
Yeah, the
really?
Ohio wasn't in the book. Yeah, he lives in Oklahoma City.
Oh, interesting.
I know this because I just looked that up earlier. I didn't remember it from reading it, but yeah, I looked it up.
Is that where the Gregarious Games is located? I thought he lived in the city that Gregarious Games is
I
located.
think that's where the company is.
Okay, so it's that
Yeah.
they kept that part. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's there, but then H is in Detroit, but I think like Sho and Daito are in like Japan or something.
Yeah,
And
they're
and
like
that's actually a huge thing that they changed at the end of the book. It's not the high 5,
mhm.
it's the high 4.
Oh yeah, because it's Daito that the spoilers.
They literally they killed once they miss Wade. They basically tried to get all of them at once. They tried to wipe the high 5, but they actually got to Daito.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so they
he
kind of played
dies in the
homage to
book?
that. Yeah, in the book he literally dies, and I think
Yeah.
they played homage to that in the movie with the sacrifice when he goes in as the Gundam and fights Mecha Godzilla. But in the book he goes as he chooses Ultraman. Again, another licensing thing that I'm sure they're just like, screw it. Plus, Ultraman is a very weird visual cut, and I think Gundam was a much better visual choice for that. Plus, familiarity too. So, but yeah, no, he dies in the book. Again, another really dark moment where you're like, shit.
Yeah.
and like in the book, and again, like H and Parzival, they like H still picks Parzival up at some point, but the rest of them, they're not all together until Og like basically rescues them all and takes them to his house so they can finish playing there. He like basically gives them safe haven.
Yeah, right. Once Daito dies, Og tracks them all down. But in the book, it's handled really, really cool because the workshop, H's workshop, is a thing. But in the book, I don't know if it's a full workshop. At least when I read it, they kind of pitched it as just like somebody's basement, I think they actually call it like the Keaton's basement or something like that. It's like they take some pop culture thing and dump it in, like, oh, maybe it's Wayne's
Family
World.
Ties.
Yeah, the Family Ties, or like
Nice.
Wayne's World's basement, something like that. So it's like it's just a room. I don't remember it being pitched as a whole workshop, but there's
Kinda
even like
it's a chat room basically.
yeah, that's basically what it is. It's a private chat room. But in the book, there's a very small part at the end of one chapter where Parzival notices that like a book falls over.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, whatever. But the difference is that the Ogden Morrow's character isn't separated so much from Halliday as he is in the movie. And he is basically given omniscient god powers in the Oasis. And so he is able to sneak in and secretly watch anything and everything at all times. So that was him being invisible inside the chat room, knocked the book over. And that's how he knows to find them in the real world. Once Daito dies and he sucks them all in, is that he knows who they are. So he goes and rescues them because he's find out that IOI is coming for them. But yeah, and then also to then finish out. So there's a lot of stuff again that great reading, horrible to watch. Better to make an augmentation in the movie to make it more movie ready. Like I said, the whole IROC thing, even of itself, is like it's just like a bully in his high school, and then I don't even think you ever hear from him again. Or he's actually I think he's like a big showboater, so it'd be kind of like the Flash character in Spider-Man, where apparently he's got a lot of stuff and money, and he kind of bullies H and Parzival. 'Cause I think he makes some comment once about like if he can't go to their secret room, he can't come to his party or some nonsense like that. But he is not like the IROC that's in the movie. So that's a huge change. But I think it's like great for film. Like you got to have that bounty hunter type antagonist.
Oh, I love the version of IROC in the movie.
Yeah, it's great. And I love that it's
TJ Miller. Sorry.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, IROC is TJ Miller, which is also super funny because his dialogue of just like, how you doing? I got this thing on my neck. I think it's carpal tunnel. Not even just, I'm potent.
Could you stand over there?
Like, yeah, could you stand to my right? Yeah, that kind of stuff I thought was super good, and that's why I loved what I mentioned earlier about like the technical consultant stuff, where that easily could have been a real conversation, where you're talking to somebody and they're actually talking about how they're feeling in the real world. It's like, how you doing today? Oh man, today sucked at work. My boss was on my nuts, like that kind of thing. That's kind of real stuff. And I thought that was super good. That every time Sorrento was like strict, call it digital business, and IROC was like, yeah, no, I think I gotta see a doctor.
Crying for help.
Yeah.
I did like that kind of private police aspect. I thought that was really interesting and kind of a scary thing that could happen now and very soon. Maybe already
Indentured
has.
servitude, buy up your debt and you're now our slave. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, but what's interesting about that is that you built up all of this debt in the fake world while you were trying to escape the real world, and now you've basically just enslaved yourself in the fake world as well.
In both.
Yeah. And that's what's really interesting about it, is that there's really no escape when it comes to that level of greed. Because what was fascinating was, what if there was someone with that much power and influence and money that they could just throw money and throw resources at the free market, basically. So there was a lot of kind of cool, interesting undertones of commerce and politics and the police state and things like that were not harped on overly, but created that overall sense of dread. Like I said, it wasn't necessarily this post-apocalyptic world, but it definitely had that feel of not a place you really want to live, not a place you want to go.
Exactly.
Yeah. But not too over the top. But the movie as a whole, I think, really worked well. I really love the Atari stuff. I picked up one of those Atari. It's basically like Bluetooth controllers, and it's just a little Atari controller that's got 50 or 100 games or whatever on it. It broke in like 2 minutes, so I need to get a new one. But it's fun playing those old games and
really emulated the Atari.
Yeah, basically. Yeah. Yeah, you gotta blow in it. The old games are it's so crazy because we were fascinated with them because we're all, well, Brian, you might be not quite old enough. Did you play it? Did you play Atari when you were a kid at all?
I totally had an Atari. Pole position, bro.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. That's the one. Oh, that was 6400, right? I don't remember.
I don't know. I just had an Atari.
Yeah, but the originals like Pong and Combat, and so like the last one, Adventure. It's so crazy that it was literally squares floating around in a world of other colored squares, and it's just so crazy.
I remember my brother. I think it was like I don't know if it's NASA or just some space game where you're supposed to dock. Like essentially, you have a capsule and you need to dock with like a space station or something. And that's like the only thing you have to do is take this dot and match it up with that dot.
Right.
And I remember just this very fuzzy memory of my brother, who's 10 years older than me, just like stressed to all high heaven.
Super intense.
Like getting there, and I'm like watching, and I'm like very meek, youngest kid, like, and it doesn't go right. At the very last, something goes wrong. The dots don't match up. After I don't know how long of just boring beep, beep. It's that, and tension's building, and I'm like, and then he just freaks out and like throws stuff, and I was like,
I don't want to play this game.
Hilarious memory of that, and all those games. I mean, it's just like, the error is so small.
Yeah.
The amount, your margin of error is tiny, and it's just like the capability is so minimal.
Because by the time we got to Nintendo and Sega Genesis, by the time you got there, the graphics were such that the world was freer. You could move like the original Mario Brothers. You still can kind of see the restrictions of the bits in the graphics and the actual physical pixels. But in Atari, the physical pixels were so big that you could actually see where you could and couldn't go. Like Pitfall was a big one where you had to jump on the alligators' heads, but the alligators' heads were 2 pixels wide. And so if you landed on 1 pixel and you're hanging over, well, the mouth pixel could still eat you. So it was just very – and I had that freak out moment where I was playing Pitfall and I was doing really good. I was getting to the end and was getting to the close to winning the game, and I jumped in, and then I just missed it and fell right into the alligator's mouth and like threw the controller. I was so mad. Yeah, I was so mad. Right. But that you also didn't get to save games back then, so once you had invested 20 minutes in a game and then you died, it was start over time.
Well, that's why you had to leave your Nintendo on when you were playing Super Mario Brothers.
Right? Yeah.
You had to it on. Like I remember leaving mine on for days on end.
Yeah.
Come to dinner, okay. Just leave it and pause it. And
set the controller down really slowly and softly, and make sure it just sits in one place.
Oh yeah.
But then by the time,
I mean, there's a is it a documentary? Yeah, it's a documentary. But there was an urban legend a long time ago that Atari buried like 1 million copies of E.T., the Atari game, in some landfill or some pit somewhere. And this documentary, and I can't remember the name of it, but it actually has Ernest Cline, who wrote.
I'm gonna look it up.
Ernest Cline wrote Ready Player One. He's in it. He makes an appearance. He's driving his DeLorean, all that kind of fun stuff. But yeah, it's. I don't know if you ever played a quick show of hands, the ET game.
Yeah.
The definition of it is like you're ET, and you're trying to get all the pieces to get your little thing to phone home. And I think there's like 12 screens, and 9 of them just have giant holes in the middle that you can't see. So you're walking, and then ET falls. And if he falls in a hole, he's got to like stretch his head up to float, which isn't in the movie, but whatever. But like, if you fall into certain pits, you run out of energy and you die. That's it, and game over.
Yeah.
So it's like you just start, and like you could fall into the first pit, the first screen, game over. Reset button, start over and over. So yeah, there's a thing that just made me think about the non, like if you look at games now. Let's ignore online gaming, all that kind of fun stuff. But if you look at, even Mario or where they're at now with like Call of Duty or the sports games and all that kind of fun stuff, like those have built-in memory. They have insane graphics, which we won't even go into that stuff. But like these games were literally, you got about 5 to 10 minutes. Sometimes your Atari would even reset for you.
Right. It would
just be like, oh, you're done.
Start over.
Like, yeah, well, because I think I looked it up one time. I think it was actually a physical memory limitation that it was built into the cartridges that if you did so much into one certain thing, it would fill up the RAM and crash the game. So
the Atari would actually reset your game. Didn't matter.
Yeah.
You could have been this close to the end. It doesn't matter.
Just
boom.
freak out.
You knew it was going to happen. And I think there were actually some games where that was built in.
Yeah.
And I think that was also one of the original purposes of Robbie the Robot for Nintendo, was that you would set that little top spinning. It was a way of preventing memory overload in some of those games, so that the top would hit the edge, break a contact, and kick your game. But it was a mechanic. But yeah, it was designed to prevent memory overload.
So that documentary you're talking about is called Atari Game Over.
Okay.
And it actually is directed by Zach Penn, who wrote
Oh,
Ready
is it
Player
really?
One,
Oh, wow.
the screenplay. Yeah. So yeah, but it's really, really good. If you guys haven't watched it, it's really
I
interesting.
should watch it.
Well, but they buried all of these ET games because, well, and the legend of the ET game is that it was just massively over time and over budget, like just ridiculously. And you know how the Atari games always had, especially the ones that were movie based, had usually the movie poster on the cartridge itself, and so you were just like, I can't wait to see this game, and then it just looked terrible. Didn't look
It had
anything
nothing to
like
do
that.
with the movie
Yeah,
whatsoever.
exactly, and that's what this ET game was. It was the most expensive, the longest created game, and then it just bombed.
And then it was the pits,
Yeah.
literally.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
cheaper to bury it than to try to save it or resurrect it.
Yeah. So there were pristine copies of it that they found that were buried because they've just been kind of protected by the other copies of it and
It's
dirt.
the
They're the ones that were
File.
sacrificed.
Yeah, it's really cool. Definitely watch it. Check it out. But I
I gotta
think.
watch this.
But have you
Yeah,
guys seen
it's-
King
it's-
of Kong?
Oh yeah,
King of Kong, Fistful of Quarters.
This full quarters is cool.
Oh, it's like the best. That is. It was like one of those seminal documentaries that made me want to do that, but also realize that these people are real. These people exist, and not saying
Oh, yeah.
like gamers or anything like that. It was the personalities of the people that I was just blown away by.
oh yeah.
It's long and short of the documentary is there's sort of your underdog character, this guy named Steve Wiebe, who is attempting to break the world record of Donkey Kong, the original Donkey Kong game, and so he has an actual stand-up game that he plays and he practices on, and then your sort of your bad guy character.
The
What
villain,
was his
if you will.
name? Oh man, Billy something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is Billy something.
And he looks exactly like what you would think a arcade bad guy would look like.
Right, totally.
Well, he's what Peter Dinklage is. I
Yep.
think making direct fun of him in that
The
whatever that
Pixels-
Adam Sandler
the
movie
Pixels?
is.
Pixels
Yeah.
or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, the glasses, cheap.
No glasses.
Must-
He didn't have glasses.
I thought he
No,
wore
he had a-
sunglasses.
he had a
I thought he
beard.
had like Oakleys or something.
Maybe, probably in
some
some
point,
picture.
but
Yeah,
yeah.
he had a beard, but a wicked mullet.
Yeah.
Wore vests. Tall, skinny guy.
Just so full of
Hot sauce?
himself, and yeah, he had like a hot
sauce
sauce
company?
empire and a bunch of restaurants and stuff. But
Yeah.
I forget
Hot sauce
what- yeah. the best thing that I couldn't believe this guy was really real, and they were. All these characters
Right.
were real, and everybody in the video game world of that time, and this was like just before vintage video games, just before nostalgia boners started happening. So this is all like pre,
it wasn't
the
even
frenzy.
nostalgia at that point. It was mainstream.
Right. These guys love video games. So I think we were looking like late 90s, early 2000s. So they were still holding on to Centipede and that kind of stuff. But the bad guy in the character, this guy named Billy, I don't remember what the context of it was, but the interviewer asked him a question like, why do you play games? Like, why is breaking this record so important to you? And he just stands there and he goes, just look at my tie. You see my tie? USA. That was his answer to why it was
Yeah.
like important to him, was America. It was like
America.
just the way the sincerity with which he does everything, that hubris about him, and really, literally all he does is like makes hot sauce and has what turns out to be possibly a fake world record.
No, so
that's what's awesome about
that that's the kicker with this documentary, and I think I mentioned this before too, is that anytime you have something that has a very strict following culture, there's always a subculture that is so far beyond anything you can imagine. So you start watching this, and it's Steve Weeby's like a high school math teacher or science teacher or something like that.
Yeah.
Gets this arcade in his free time, starts there's a book on how to play Donkey Kong. So he starts reading it, and he's like, wait a minute, I do this. So he starts figuring out these little patterns to score points while the time is still allowed. And I think he actually like stumbles across the record or something like that. And he's like, wait a minute, I came close to that. I think I can do this. So he starts doing it in his garage, and they show him using like a white mark or a dry erase board marker to draw stuff. He's doing it.
Right. Every level he's drawing out.
Right. He's drawing out
because back like those games, and even kind of all the way through to like Super Nintendo, they were not random. Most of these levels were the same.
Yes,
the
right.
barrels
Everything
were being thrown
had
at the exact
a
same
set
time.
of knowledge.
Yeah, so if you knew the timing, you could beat it.
Right, which plays into this next part where he the only way to do it was you had to record on VHS or whatever, you playing it, but then you also had to submit like the motherboard of the machine that you used. Right. Because again, this is like analog stuff. So like you could tweak a pin setting on memory, you could change a toggle, and it would be, or if it was like a different serial number, it's like, nope, that's not the official one, that doesn't count, blah blah blah. So then if he's doing all this stuff and he submits it, and then this Billy guy finds out and just goes on a tirade about it and submits, like Steve Wiebe submits his video for the record, and I think like a day later Billy submits one that's like 5 points greater.
Because he said, like, I think that Billy, the bad guy, said, don't worry, I've got something up my sleeve. I've been sitting on it. So to suggest that he's already beat the world record, but he never submitted it, so he's got this VHS tape sitting around at home waiting to submit. And then
the best part about it too is then he like Steve Wiebe gets it, and everyone's like, who's this guy, this math teacher from New Jersey or whatever, out of nowhere that does it? And then Billy kind of like, they show him like strutting in. Just a second, everybody. And he gives them this tape, and they're watching, and they're like, oh my God, he did it. And then immediately they're like, wait a minute, did that tape skip? Hold on. And like this like CSI process occurs where they're watching it, and it's
because
like
when
VHS,
the
VHS guy, that's with Steve's video, right?
No, Steve's video was good. Billy's video had like the fuzzy VHS skip right when it turns over to like the world record score. And so, but the crazy thing about it is that the subculture, all the people who were part of this, there were these like designated referees who were in charge of this stuff.
There's like association of like, I can't remember what the thing is, but like it's the Associated of stand-up and tabletop gaming of America or something like that. And they're like the regulators.
But you could see how much they worshipped Billy, the bad guy. Yeah. It was so weird.
They would give him all the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah.
Everywhere. And this other guy's like, who's this guy coming out of nowhere?
Yeah.
We don't know who this other dude is.
It's
underdog.
Amazing.
And the underdog, there's two things that are great. One is his video when he's playing, and in the background you hear his kids like, Daddy, I gotta poop. Daddy. And he's just like, it ain't happening.
He's literally on the verge of breaking the record. The VHS camcorder is sitting behind his shoulder, and his kids are like, Daddy, I have to poop. He's like, I can't believe this is happening right now.
Why VHS? Just because they couldn't have edited it or something?
No, it was. This is all happening in the mid to late '90s. So that's all that they had was
technical
VHS recorders.
Okay, I didn't realize it was that old. So like I didn't know if why the VHS was a requirement. But.
No, you just had to tape yourself doing it as proof. But
and then there was like controversy about that. I guess Billy used to. And this is where the tape skip came in, is that he had an unofficial / illegal version of Donkey Kong, and the tape skip was maybe he cut in footage from his illegal one onto the legal one, and like they were trying to verify it, and they're like, and he even says like, I own it, I play it from time to time, and blah blah blah, but never flat out said I did not do it.
Yeah,
it was just like, I'm the best. That was his response. I'm the best. America.
There's a beautiful.
Have a good night, guys. I have to go watch these documentaries.
Right.
I'm totally hooked on this right now.
They're the best. There's a scene where they interview Steve Wiebe, the underdog, his wife, and it's just her just going, it's just a very classic, like Midwestern-y thing. Yeah. And she's like, he's just kind of always been a loser. Like, she doesn't say that specifically, but it's
never been first place.
Yeah, he's just
like
always
she says
been
everything,
good,
but
not
he's just a giant loser.
Yeah, good, but not good enough. He was
Never
a pitcher.
actually pleased me in the bedroom.
His brother was way better than him. I know. It's just things like that where you're like, oh man, this poor guy.
Yeah.
He's telling his kids in his classroom about how he kind of has the world, because he did officially hold the world record.
He does have other world records.
Yeah.
He has
That's
like
right.
Miss Pac-Man and like Donkey Kong
Centipede
Jr. or something like that.
And he's telling the kids, and the kids are like unbelievably unimpressed, which is hilarious. They're like sixth graders, and they're just like, yeah, we don't really care about
And these
this.
are like stand-up arcade games.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they have had to go out and buy these expensive ass machines, and
Mhm.
wow.
Well, and back then too,
And-
it wasn't. I don't think they were that pricey. I think they were just really hard to find, and so he at one point in time, I think that he was playing Donkey Kong with a Donkey Kong motherboard, but in a Donkey Kong Jr. like cabinet or something like that. And so
makes sense.
everything was pieced together. But then one of the other video game guys who hated Billy, the bad guy, actually bought him a brand new or a completely official game board or motherboard and stuff like that to make sure that his stuff was legal. And you know what? There's another one. Is it called Spider? I think the game is called Spider, but there's another documentary about these guys who were trying to beat the world record in Spider, but the only way to do it was, I think, to stay, like, the game could potentially last like 30 hours or something like that, and that's the only way to beat it. It's the same thing where like these guys have the cabinets set up in their house, and they play, and so they've got friends over to like feed them or to take over at a certain point so they could drink a Red Bull or whatever. It's amazing. And it's got a couple guys. It's got a couple of guys in it who are in the world of the Donkey Kong one, so definitely worth a look.
Nice. That feels like that dovetails into the classic South Park episode, the World of Warcraft.
I've
Make
seen
love,
that.
not Warcraft. Yeah, if you haven't seen it, definitely look that one up.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
The boys are trying to beat this. Essentially, this dude. This is like this old dude that has this unbeatable character somehow that's just wrecking every other character in the game, and even to the point where whatever, like the company that owns it is like freaking out about this guy. Blizzard is freaking out about it, and so the kids are like, "We're gonna just level up by killing stupid animals." And so they just go like that's their whole lives, and there's like a montage of them just getting like fatter and fatter and more acne, and it's like this fight, music. You gotta fight, whatever.
Big old training montage.
Yeah, and it's them just like falling apart as human beings, and Cartman's like got his mom trained to like when he has diarrhea, it's like he's eating just nothing but Hot Pockets and just crapping everywhere, and his mom's like, that's a big boy.
Oh, it's amazing.
It's a solid episode.
Yeah.
Say the Oasis is real, which, judging by how things are going and how we're not supposed to leave our houses unless we have to, I feel like that could potentially be a actual thing in our lifetime.
They had at one point there was a system called Second Life. It was a real thing where part of the Oasis was kind of patterned off of it. And it was called Second Life. You could build an avatar. You could be anything you want. You could go to places. You could travel the world and stuff. They actually had, I don't know if it ever made it into a documentary, but there's actually a guy who I think still holds the Guinness World Record for most money spent in real world currency for digital property. He mortgaged his house. He sold every worldly possession to create a hotel casino in Second Life. And
Jeez.
they just kind of said sorry, and they charged him and built it and all this fun stuff. But then like Second Life failed, and he gone. They're like, no, it's not real. Like it's not. You gave us your money, but for nothing, for ones and zeros.
Like, did he think that somehow?
Well, because
like,
there was.
Did you have the possibility of making money in game? So then he.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah,
so he thought, I'm going to get in early, and if I can do this, then it's like someone getting every big domain name the second the internet came out.
Yeah,
right?
getting like Pepsi.com, Coke.com, all that kind of stuff. So.
Just wrong gamble.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And he, like I said, he went all in, and then I think shortly after that, I don't remember exactly what shut down Second Life, but it was something along the lines of like illegal currency and racketeering and drug trafficking and all this like insidious stuff. And the government's basically were like shut down or die kind of thing. And they were like, no, all this digital content property's been seized, which includes your $1 million hotel casino thing. Sorry, bud. Like that's it. Like no return. Yeah, just totally shut down. So yeah, Second Life was a real thing, and it was very loosely the Oasis. You could upload images. People were designing 3D avatars, but then it got into trouble with like licensing type stuff because people were doing like inappropriate things with Smurfs, that kind of stuff. So
what?
That's the one thing that they touched on briefly in the Oasis, which I thought was super great. Is when in the intro when they're flying through introducing the Oasis, he shows like the casino that is a casino, and then he's like, and you could also go here. And it's like kiss, and he's like, "Yeah, but we're gonna move on."
Yeah.
So they address it like, the internet's a dirty place sometimes. Let's just move on. Let's just let's go to Minecraft world.
I feel like it could potentially, gambling, online gambling, is becoming a legitimate thing.
Sure.
In the very near future, and so and as it should, because everything becomes legitimate once governments realize that they can make money off of it. And so
absolutely.
That's where we're at now. And so that idea, that guy, he was a little bit too early. The Second Life thing was a little early
he was too early, and he definitely. Not everyone can succeed in a risk, right? Mm-hmm. But this also parlays into another online system. It was a game called EVE Online, which was a online space-based game. Is an MMO. It had, I don't think even had like a story or a plot. Like you pay money, you start out with a ship, and then you can get jobs. You can become a miner, you can be a transport, you can whatever. But it existed. I think it was out of like Norway or Sweden or something like that. But anyway, it built literal communities. It got to the point where people, were spending day and night in there. People had set up trade federations. They had done this stuff, and you can go look it up.
First thing I do.
The Phantom Menace.
There's your Star Wars kick. I got you. But what
you think it's a ridiculous plot? It happened.
But
it's real.
And I'm going to get all the facts wrong, but the general gist of it was there were two factions that were basically running this game, like a East Coast West Coast type thing, and what started to happen was the West Coast group started sending in spies, like corporate espionage, into this one, slowly destroying their economy from the inside, which ended up in this galactic war that wiped out digital and literal currency.
Wow.
Like it tanked companies, it crushed people, because like these people had given this company money to develop ships, graphics, develop fighters, freighters, special custom things, and these two, it got so big, and then these two groups digitally went at it and wiped each other out.
What was it called?
And then it was called EVE Online, EVE.
Eve.
But it was. I heard this must have been like less than 5 years ago. You can go look it up, but it is. It's not just like a bunch of trolls getting together. It is like legitimate corporate espionage. They had people like buy in, rise up in the ranks, control entire fleets, and it's insane.
But that makes perfect sense, because that's totally like that's what Ready Player One was all about, was corporate companies who had the means to go in and try to control things, even in a fake world. And that's totally what would happen, though. I mean, that's how it always works because the rise in power is real no matter where you go.
Well, that's
Yeah.
the one thing that the movie doesn't necessarily track with today's day and age, because they do a good job of handling it right away. That the minute he's on the scoreboard, he goes to the Holiday Center, and was it Toro Zoro? I can't remember the name of the Mortal Kombat character. Like everyone's like, "Oh, Parsifal!" They're going ape shit about it, and then that character comes up and grabs him, like throws him in. It's like, dude, you are the guy now. Like you can't just be walking around, especially in such a high threat environment where if you die, you zero out, you lose it all, right? That's the one thing they didn't do in this game, is that I guarantee if this was a thing today, the minute somebody came on this $500 billion scoreboard, digitally
They're
assassinated.
gonna kill him.
Right.
He gets murked like that. Like he can't even log in because people are gonna spawn camp. Like all the stuff that would happen, absolutely. Like so that's why when in the movie in the book, when he goes to the dance club and the Sixers bust in, Ogden Morrow runs that dance club. He basically uses his god powers to like disperse them all. Like he shoves them all out, stops. He basically rewrites the code on the fly and like no. But in the movie, I mean, there's no anti-gun bans. Like there's no weapon bans. It's just people being super cool. Like, oh, let me take your picture. Like, no, he gets murked, dies.
Right. Yeah.
And I mean, that's just how it would happen because internet trolls exist. It's a thing. So
And
especially
if billions of people are playing this game, not just thousands.
And not to mention a lot. If this were a real thing, people would go in there. A lot of them would just be the worst versions of themselves because there was no real consequences. Yeah. So they would just walk around and like it would be like Planet Doom.
Grand Theft Auto.
Yeah. The only thing that might tip it is, like you said, if your entire income was based in this digital world, you would do everything possible not to create a situation where you get zeroed out. So that's the only thing that might like hold it, is like today, hopefully in like today's society, I just don't go around shooting people. Because it's like, no, that would ruin my life.
Throwing Funkos at them.
The ones I don't watch, but which is none, but
of which I have 0.
I want to see you like, wait. I'm sorry.
You can throw that Chiefs helmet though.
You're welcome. That's the only thing in society that would like potentially stop that from happening in the Oasis, was like the actual consequence of you zero out and start over in a realm of billions of people. The minute you zero out, everyone is instantly better than you.
Yeah.
Even the guy who doesn't do anything is better than you. He's got more stuff, more money, access. Like you zero out, you come back in default with nothingness. So I think the threat of like that was good. And IROC made a good line where he gives the Cataclysm to Sorrento at the end. And he's like, whoa, wait, you can't use that now? He's like, I've got 10 years worth of shit in me, man. He's like, whoa. Real threat. I'm like, oh, God. And I thought it was so good when he popped. Like, you got to see stuff.
Yeah,
like,
all this stuff,
like, stuff fall out of him. And so I think that, like, that would be why I would defend, like, the maybe he didn't get murked right away, is because people had that realistic threat of, like, oh, man, if I die, like, I literally have, even though it's nothing, I have nothing.
Yeah.
Like, it's all ones and zeros, but it's gone.
Yeah, it's true. That would probably, the reality of it would change it from everyone going, oh, let's watch Percival. Let's see if he do it. Instead, they would just be like, murdering each other in real life.
I thought about that, though, too, when I was watching the movie, and I guess I was kind of hoping that this is kind of, now that I'm thinking about it in my brain, it sounds ridiculous to say, but that there would be rules about that, because I didn't understand why in the Oasis you could just do whatever you wanted to in any place. I felt like it made more sense to me if, okay, when you're on Planet Doom, that's where you can die.
The safeties come out.
When you're at the dance party planet, that's all you can do there is hang out and dance party. There's no guns and death there. So like that kind of, so then that way you could, in theory, it would make sense that he could go to the library and look up all this stuff with no threat, because you can't, because you're just, the code is just written. You can't kill people. It's like playing Mario Brothers. You can't just shoot people in Mario Brothers. You have to have the fireball. or whatever.
Right,
So,
and I think they
Have a banana peel.
yeah,
it's
exactly.
something that like Klein
a
probably
red shell.
initially thought about of like how would this pan out, and I think he just made this assumption like I don't want to go into like the three laws type stuff of this universe. It's like let's just assume it's society and everyone there's gonna be jerks, but for the most part everyone's gonna be cool with it because this is basically real society converted to digital society. So the general social norm rules apply. But again, when the Sixers bust in, they start shooting. When they're in the race, those Sixers get zeroed and like their coins are gone, kind of thing. So there is still risk. There is still quote unquote dying. But I think in general the rules would have been like, don't do it. But I disagree with like how loose they do with Parsifal, because like I said, this it's not like this game is some mediocre little prize. Like this is the game that has been blank for years.
Yeah.
And then the minute he shows up, like he's dead. Like, or he can't be as cavalier as he is with his presence walking around.
That's why I felt like those rules, like laying down that law, would have made a lot of sense as an author.
Yeah, but also like if you're trying to animate a CG movie, you don't want to have to put like a no guns allowed sign on every the set decoration. Like you don't want to have to put all this stuff like no guns here.
But you could create from a game perspective though, it makes sense. Like pole position, you can't get out of the car. There's just rules that already exist. So it just seemed like that would be a thing, but but it made for good drama.
I think they could have just established that with a little bit of narration and said, such and such zones or no kill zones. And, if you want to go kill, you got to go to Planet Doom. I think they could have done it with just a little bit of narration and not a lot of effort. But
they went to
I don't know.
Sweet little like puppy land is where people can go and like very safely talk to each other, and then there's like people trying to do shady stuff there, and it's like, no, this is puppy world, you can't
get out.
Right.
The admin's like, get out of here.
Admin's kicking them out.
Stuff.
Yeah, I kind of like that they just left that part out and didn't overcomplicate it with that. I don't know. That just because we're already going for a ride, it didn't.
True. It was a fun ride though.
Oh yeah, really fun movie. Really, really fun. I didn't know it was being made it into a movie till like I finished the book and like 2 days later the announcement came out.
Ooh.
I had like the biggest smile on my face, like
nerd boner. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Oh, big time. Yeah.
Yeah. I think when the movie was made, it was a really good time. I think that where we're at in CGI, it made sense and it really, really worked.
Oh, yeah.
It was good timing.
And in nostalgia and just all of it is timing.
Yeah.
Was,
Well, they did a good job. You're talking about the CG too, because we talked about this with Bumblebee, and the difference between the original Transformers and Bumblebee is that this movie is one where you easily could have just done the tight close-ups and missed all of it. But the whole point of this movie is to flood you with nostalgia. So yeah, you got to back the camera up. I want to see the original Batmobile racing, Bigfoot racing, the DeLorean with the Speed Racer car. Like I want to see that. That's the whole point. Is I want to see the little tidbits. So you got to back it up so I can see all that. Or in like the final battle, I get it, the running, and I get that you need action, but they did such a good job of backing it up so you could see the battle toads. You could see like the Halo squad coming in, and that's just super good. That's a great decision and extremely well executed for sure.
Yeah, no, the CG camera work was fantastic, just in the way that it did that it was able to show everything, and I think but not too much, where you would have that little, it just kind of in the beginning when he's talking about his avatar and you're kind of going through the world and you see Marvin the Martian and RoboCop and things like that, it would all pop up, but it wasn't, you weren't sitting on it for too long to make it too obvious, which was pretty cool.
And again, the conceit of the world is you can be whatever, so everything's going to be here.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I liked it. It was fun to watch a movie. Like I don't know why I never watched it. I never saw it. And so it's fun going in completely blind to something and then being just quite delighted. It was just a lovely, little movie. It's funny though, we all said kind of the same thing. It was like, yeah, it's great. Fun movie. Just there to be entertained. And but then you think about like what was the budget? Probably like $1 bazillion, and probably every little detail
Sizable,
was
sure.
just painstakingly gone over, so that all four of us can go, yeah, I liked it.
Well, and two, I think that speaks to, like, Spielberg's certainly gotten away from this stuff, and maybe now he's getting to an age he's fine to go back to it.
Yeah,
but I feel like he wants to make Lincoln or Bridge of Spies or whatever that movie is. Like, he wants to do historical things and like zone in on a pocket watch that somebody had. Like that's where his, I think, passion is now. It's not doing the rollicking thing. So I think with this movie, he literally said that it was for his grandkids.
Yeah,
and
Right.
So all of that tracks, of him going, okay, and probably as a grandparent looking at kids just living on their phones and being able to have that way into this movie and go, at the end of the day, what should the moral be? Take 2 days off from it.
Yeah,
That's the best we're gonna do.
Yeah.
Like he's like throwing up his hands, like, yep, oh well.
Yeah.
It's already a lost battle, so just try and look up every once in a while and wipe the drool off, kid.
Yeah. Right.
I just feel like the pitch when they like pitched him to direct this movie, they're like, "Come on, man, we can't make this movie without you because all the references are all your movies. Come on,
Right.
Yeah, I mean,
come
we
on,
literally cannot make this.
Come on.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, fine. Well, this is what you're gonna have to pay me. Well, we don't have a choice.
Yeah,
so
Yeah,
Yeah,
there
that's
was
probably
no
more accurate. Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
They weren't
And
going to
then he
take a
went,
chance.
Well, I think what's good about we talk about the payment, all the fun stuff too, is where this movie did a good job not shoving advertising down your throat versus Wreck-It Ralph 2, which is literally like a Google ad, a Yahoo ad, a Twitter. Like they pinpoint the technology at the time and lean on it. And this one, I mean, he mentions Twitch streams. I think that's the only like current, if you will, terminology, but he doesn't talk about like, oh, I'm late for my YouTube thing, or he doesn't
Let
start
me put
listing
my
like
Google glasses on.
he doesn't start
With
listing
my
off, like,
Apple
websites that do certain things, or
I
they
have
buy
that.
everything through the Oasis, so there's
My
no,
eyes
let me go Google that. That's what I think from Klein's original source work, but they could have done that with this movie. I'm sure things like Twitter and Facebook reached out to them and was like, how do I get in this movie? And I'm glad Spielberg has enough clout to be like, you don't get in this movie. And Twitch made it in because is Twitch Amazon? Yeah, Twitch is Amazon. I don't know if they were at the time, but for that to be the only true like corporate nod, it's not bad.
But Twitch is the legitimate gamer stream. We are live on Twitch right now.
Yay!
Hey. Let me see how many viewers we have. 7 views. No one's commented yet. On
I just want someone to comment.
Yeah, just say something. Say
Yeah, I
you
think
guys
it's
suck.
just
say
you and
something.
Yeah, give us a good old you suck.
Give us a good
Come
old
on.
Raz. Be a troll.
troll us.
We could use some trolls. I've
I
had
would love
one.
someone just be on there screwing with us.
Yeah. I've had one,
fine.
like 1 or 2 mean comments in my time. The YouTube thing has been a lot of fun, and it's mostly been like overwhelmingly positive, which has been really great. People seem to like the videos I've been putting out. But I did try going on to Reddit for a hot minute, because I know Reddit has like a lot of the that's like the ultra nerds, right? And so you can really, if you get a following there, you can really get it. Well, I immediately got off of it because it's just mean and it's just mean. And I posted a picture on there one time, and I'll change the words of the comment that was on it. But this guy said this. Okay, so I posted a picture on a picture thread on Reddit, and the guy said, "This isn't Instagram, you effing piece of crap." And I was like,
Ooh.
like, why would you be so mean to somebody you don't know for posting a picture on? It was like, and I think it was like a photo, like an actual like Sony photography feed, and I was just like, what? I don't understand the
The
comment.
subreddit is like
Pillows
flower
going-
photos.
Yeah.
You put a flower photo and they're like, what are you doing,
Yeah.
damn horticulturist?
So
So it was
angry.
I had a few of those happen where people were just like awful. And I was very sensitive then. This is a little while ago. Now I don't care. I'll probably get back on and try it out again. But yeah, now it's like whatever. Now when people comment something negative, I just agree with them, and then they never comment back. Because like one guy commented on one of the videos I did about a microphone where he's like, when you put the compression on, it sounded worse. And so I just said, actually, I just listened to it again, and you're right. And then they never like respond. Like I don't know why you like. Hey, I'm going to engage with you for a hot second, but and then one time a guy commented something like really mean, and so I asked him. I was just like, hey, so just quick question, why would you say that? Like you don't know me, and and he said because this is the internet. That was his answer. Mm-hmm. So. Oh.
Hey, listen, I talked to you about that. I felt real bad when I did it.
Well, but we're still friends, so thank goodness. Yeah, but you were right. The compression sounded worse.
Who's this Funko and Co guy?
Yeah, so that's where the
Funko and
use of an internet-based solution world falls apart a little bit in like a real world because they didn't make any reference to trolls or anything in the movie. It's not even a consideration, which I think is good. I mean, there's probably a decision where I can imagine them sitting around the table saying like, because it's not in the book, but also like, do we do this? Do we address like the nasty side of the internet? And I'm sure somebody's like, no, just not at all. Don't even talk about it. It's not a thing.
Well, too, this movie's just pretty jam-packed. So it's, I think that's more like I could see them putting it on a board and going, no time and what's the point?
Right. Yeah.
Like, keep it moving. This is nostalgia, and those movies didn't have that, so we don't need it.
Right.
Well, considering
Goonies didn't have trolling.
Considering what a big movie it was, or what a big book it was, the movie, I think, did a good job of making short order of such a big book. But to that point, too, about the trolls, I don't think that Ernest Cline necessarily, the idea of building this world was more about building the world and more about the nostalgia boner and not so much about current state of the internet.
How people would actually do.
Yeah.
Well, I think he wanted to make it's like a digital Goonies. You know, it's a computer Goonies, and it's like that fits right in line with the nostalgia bomb of he's like because he wrote another book called Armada, which is also really good, and when you read it, the first thing that slaps you in the face is this is the last Starfighter. Like plot like lock, stock, and two smoking. This is the last Starfighter, and then I think on like page 55, he just flat out says, "This feels like the last Starfighter." Like so he even addresses it, and then just like moves on.
Yeah.
So I hope I've been looking to see if Armada gets picked up because that's another one that I was like, I want to see it. It's not as nostalgia bomb as Ready Player One is. But it does carry the concept of people living in virtual worlds. But then something happens in the real world. So I don't want to ruin it or spoil it, but it's a good read if you want to pick it up. Like this is for everyone who's listening, which is just the four of us. Like if you liked
literally
Ready Player One, Armada is another one. When I got it, I think I sat on this couch and just like cover to cover, which is very rare for me. But I just mowed through it and was like, damn, that was good. So and it's he's not a great writer. Let's just put that out there too. Like when you're leaning on nostalgia and existing work, you can kind of flux your abilities a little bit. So he's a readable writer, which I think is very different than a great writer. Because there's a lot of great writers like Herman Melville, which good luck powering through Moby Dick.
I've done it. It's not that great.
Oh, I saw the video.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? Like there's a difference between a great writer and a readable writer. You know, there are writers that write 2 great novels, and then you have like Sue Grafton who has 75 novels, like because she's readable, or Patterson who's readable. Like there are readable writers
Robert
that
Pattinson?
have very good skills. James Patterson.
Batman.
Batman. So
talking about Batman.
And I know Ernest Cline is listening, so no offense, buddy, but you're a very readable writer, which in today's world, readable equals sellable equals congratulations.
I would love to be known as a watchable movie maker. I was like, that'd be great. They're just like, yeah, I really like watching. Because what's the other? You could be the guys who made who made Uncut Gems, and you just be like, nope, not. I don't want to watch that. So that's your other
Wes
option.
Anderson, you're just like,
hey,
get that
easy
out of
on
here.
Wes.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's how I feel about
That's
it.
what we're doing next week. We're doing all the Wes Anderson movies.
Nope.
Yeah.
Oh, guys.
Cram 'em in.
Yeah.
Just play them
smash
all
'em.
at once so I can get it fit in.
Yeah, you should be able to just lay them on top of each other and just watch them all together.
Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, his stuff is super good. The movie, yeah, I think I saw it in the theaters 3 times.
Whoa.
I saw it once or twice. Yeah.
Because I mean, and especially a movie of this size, the first time I watched it was literally like, just wash over me, because I know I'm gonna miss everything, like just blah. And then the second time I went in, because I think actually the first time I saw it was not in like the super big and loud. I think I went in just to watch it in 2D in a regular theater, knowing that like I'm gonna go in and see how it's different from the book. So tell me the story. The second time I saw it, 3D,
Ready
XD,
to be disappointed.
blow my mind kind of thing, because I was looking everywhere but main focus, trying to like, there's the Battletoads, and like, oh, there's Marvin the Martian, and oh, look, it's the ship from Firefly, like, oh, there's the Falcon.
They fit in Serenity in there. That was pretty cool.
Yeah. So that was my
I
second
hope
viewing.
you were just yelling this at the second viewing.
I just got a laser. You see it? You see it?
Oh man, I wish I would have done that now until I got kicked out.
Yeah.
It'd be so wonderful.
I just I remember being like super excited, like new Star Wars movie excited.
Oh,
you
yeah.
know, but the difference is I didn't walk out being disappointed. You know, that's the difference.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I remember like when it came out, and I don't really go to first weekends anymore just because I'm old now and I don't like crowds, and I'll just be cranky, you know. But I went and saw this like the opening weekend. And I was like, I remember like the day of, I was like so stoked.
Yeah.
Natalie was like, "What's wrong with you?" I'm like, "Such a good book. I'm so excited. And if they screw it up, I'm gonna like burn this mother."
This
but
is
thankfully,
50
I didn't
Shades
have
of
to.
Grey to me.
Yeah.
How can I
you
make
understand?
you understand?
Yeah, I think when the trailer came out, I actually shushed the person next to me.
Yeah.
When I
Nice.
saw what it was, they were like, "Oh," I was like, "Shh,
Yeah.
Yeah. Just shut the fuck up.
I need to see this."
Don't
Shush.
talk.
Stab them with your Funko. I only stab with my Funkos. I never throw
Well,
them.
And the other thing is like
Blunt.
when they got in the race and he gets in the DeLorean, Natalie leans over and goes, "Oh, I get it."
Yeah. It's like, oh, there it is. I had the best talk. I had a couple of great talker experiences being at the movies. One time, it was when
Man, I've got a whole episode
yeah,
of this. if
yeah,
you
I know,
want it.
right? We should do that.
If we're gonna go there.
It was the original Spider-Man, or not the original, but the Tobey Maguire. Yeah, and sitting in the theater, and it was a pretty full theater. And sitting there watching the movie, and there's this dude in the back, and he's with his girlfriend, and you can hear her every 4 seconds. She's like, "Shh, shh, baby, shh." And this dude's like, but he's straight up going like, "Oh no, Spider-Man! Don't open that! Don't you do it, Spider-Man! Don't you do it!" That kind of stuff. The whole movie, and I was dying. It was so much fun because I was trying to remember like a specific moment, but it was like that kind of thing where it's like, "Don't open that door, You open the door, Spider-Man!" And I was like, "This is it was the most magical experience that I've ever had in a movie." And I swear that the same guy was at Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon because he was doing the same thing when he was like, "Oh, that is tight," when they're like doing that kind of stuff.
Don't you leave me by? Don't you do it?
Yeah,
He's always bending those fingers.
Yeah, exactly. It was so good. But I don't have as much movie theater
I
experience
wonder
as we
if
do.
there
Nico.
are influencers that are like known as the guy that makes movies wonderful to sit and watch.
Yeah.
He's like, "Hey guys, just giving a shout out. I'm gonna be at Ready Player One on whatever night." And everyone's like, "Oh man, we gotta go."
Oh, yeah, go listen to
The
him.
headline the next day would be YouTube influencer goes missing.
Well, Natalie and I went to see something. It must have been a Star Wars or a Batman or Avengers or something.
Dark
But it was
Hat.
like, huh?
Star Bat.
Or what? Yeah. And the movie like was just barely started, and Natalie was like, "Oh crap! I don't think I silenced my phone." And she took it out and like,
oh no,
just long enough to like hit the button. And seriously, like around us, it was like, "Turn your phone off! Turn your phone! Hey, turn your phone off! Turn your phone off!" And it was like around us, and it was like in freaking surround sound. It's like, people.
yeah, just
For
relax.
real.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It was Nick was there.
Like, well, and it's just like she didn't even turn the screen on. It was just what the screen was bright enough at that moment where you could see pretty well, and people were just like on the attack. It's like, you freaking nerds are gonna see this movie at least 5 more times in the theaters. And her phone glittered out of her pocket for 3.8 seconds.
Yeah.
So calm down. Like, oh my god. But I know I'm being dramatic, but it was like insane. I bet there was probably 20-25 people that said it. And it
Amazing.
like
I don't doubt
it kept like rotating, like people in front of us, the side of us, behind us, the other side. It was so weird.
Wow.
You sure it wasn't the intro at the movie theater when they do that thing when they're like, "Please silence your phone, phone."
Oh yeah.
That's what it was like.
Yeah, that's what it felt like.
Like I'm pretty sure I even like the guy that was like Natalie was between me and this guy, and he said it a couple times and got really nasty. And I called him a name. I won't say it on the podcast. I'll tell you guys after. But
Nerf head.
no, I should start calling people poo-poo heads though, because that would just like make them pause. Like, what? Are you 12?
Awkward and adorable.
You're a pee-pee.
You're a nostalgia peepee.
Oh man, I have so many stories about telling people to shut up in theaters.
Oh man, you that guy? Huh?
So I'll tell one because this is one of my all-time favorites, and Andrea makes fun of me for it all the time. So this is pre-Andrea, and I was in my single days, and
you were single.
Yeah, right. But I think it was like, I want to say it was something like The Dark Knight, or it was a Batman, Spider-Man, Iron Man type thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm in my theater here, and it's in one of the smaller ones. So there's the 3 rows that are just throwaways because you're too damn close to the screen. Then there's like 2 rows. Then there's the walking thing, and then there's like 5 rows in a stadium. So for all the super geeks out there, dead center, 1 seat to the right, 3 rows up from the walk. That's the perfect place to sit acoustically for a movie. So I walk into this movie and I'm jazzed. I'm real excited about it. I'm there like at 11:30 thinking like, this is perfect. I'm the only one in here. This is amazing. I walk in and there's 2 high school age girls on their phones, blah, 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 sitting in the acoustically perfect spot of this theater.
Oh, so you're already mad.
I'm already mad. So then I go and I just sit like 2 rows behind them. So I'm near at the very, very top. And the whole time I'm just like, I can't believe they're not. This movie is not for them. This is no, just nerds getting so mad. And then they leave their stuff and walk out of the theater. So I look around.
Okay, I know where this is going.
And I moved their stuff 2 rows down.
Come on.
And then I sat in the spot. And then I just get on my phone and just start. And then, so that's where this has happened. I have touched their stuff, moved it down, and then I moved myself into the spot. So I'm on it. And then out of the corner of my eye, I'm watching the door. And they turn the corner and both like stop and look at me and look at their stuff and then look at each other and then they sit down and silence.
The whole movie.
Like, worth it.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I think it was just I was in a weird mood. I was just
Dude,
I was
crazy.
so mad that
You creeped them into silence. Yeah.
yeah.
They didn't leave? I would have left. I'd be
No,
like,
that's the thing.
this guy's creepy.
They obviously knew that I don't know if they were in shock that I actually moved their stuff, or did they actually like sit there and
Just
then forget,
confused.
or what? Yeah, I just I didn't.
You
make
didn't
any
like
con-
secretly sneak during the movie so that when the lights came up, you were right behind them.
No, I didn't. But no, I did that. But I've done the yelling thing. I've told people to shut up in full-on theaters at the very beginning. I've done it when we were watching National Treasure. I had old Encyclopedia Brown to the right of me who was solving it before everyone else could, saying it's daylight savings time, and I started yelling at him. I had this one. I went to.
I'm just gonna yell that now.
I went to Avengers,
every
the
Doesn't
final
matter which
Avengers Endgame, and I'm sitting there with some folks that I won't mention for their privacy. So I'm sitting there with them, and they're not very public people. So I'm sitting there with them, and then this like high school choir group or something comes in behind us, and it's probably 50 to 60 kids and 2 chaperones.
Yes.
And then
Oh no.
the chaperones leave. So they're sitting in here and they're just like beep, beep, blah. And you know how high school, middle school kids are. They're all just I need to prove at all times that I'm cooler than you. Just So I shared some words with them. And it was so I let them go during the previews, which is that's a thing I've backed off now, is that you can chat during the previews, that's fine. But the lights went down, title scenes came up, the movie had started, and they were still da 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 da. So
I'll let you get through Maria Menounos.
Yeah.
I've had to. My wife's talked me into allowing people to talk to me. But
So the fun part of being smart is, you know that there are parabolic speakers behind the screens, and if you shout into the bottom of a movie theater screen, it will actually come back up and reverb twice as loud. So I yelled very loudly some swear words and something about, shutting the F up, and then it might have dropped some Jesus Christ in there, and because I noticed that they were wearing School of the Holy
Lord's name in
Cross
vain.
and stuff. So I took the Lord's name in vain just right into the bottom of that, and it just came booming off the screen. It was quiet the whole rest of the movie. It was amazing. But the people I were with, I literally saw them do this.
Amazing.
One of my favorite
and
movie
that was
theater
for
experience
Smurfs too. No, what was that for?
was
Garfield.
when I went to see Deadpool, and I see all of these people bringing their little toddlers and young kids in, for their normal outing every time there's a Marvel movie. And then watched all 75 of them walk back out after about 7 minutes.
Amazing.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the opening credits
Alone. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, it's that kind of movie. Got it.
Oh yeah.
Oh man, that's amazing.
I got a whole episode on this, man.
Yeah.
There's been, but I do love it too. I think I talked about this before. I remember we were watching some horror movie, and family walked in with 2 little kids, and I was with Andrea, and I was like, I leaned over to her, I was like, that's going to be a fun conversation on the way home, because I wonder whose idea this was, because whoever it was,
There was a Jojo Rabbit, I think.
Oh
it's
that
happened
too.
multiple times, specifically with Jojo Rabbit. But I think we were watching I want to say it was like It or Insidious or something like that. And they walked with kids, and I was like, no, someone's in trouble, because it was the whole family. It's like, ooh, someone's sleeping on the couch tonight.
We went to see a movie recently, and Chris Pratt, back in the olden times when you could still go see movies, and we're walking into the ArcLight in Hollywood. Matt, you've probably been there, but Eric and Nick, you probably won't know what I'm talking about. But you go up to the top floor, and you basically, there's theaters back in the bowels of the building. Like, you just walk down this really long hallway, turn right, and there's another long hallway. There's an exit sign. There's 2 theaters there. Well, we walked down, and this big crowd had come out, and we turned down, and here's Chris Pratt and his brand new girlfriend, since it was
not Schwarzenegger?
Huh?
Was it Schwarzenegger?
Yeah, it was a Schwarzenegger. Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and they come. We were looking at their backs. They were going through, and they were trying to figure out how to get out of there. There was an exit sign. They were hoping they could sneak out, because then you were going to have to walk through this big giant crowd. And Chris Pratt was, superstar, and he turns around, and it's just me and Natalie and him and his date, and he stopped. He's like, oh crap, oh shit. So he starts walking. You could tell he's just like tensed up. And like, we walked in the theater. I just went like that at him, and you could see he's like, oh, thank God.
He didn't bother me. Thank goodness.
Yeah, I was like, but you still got to walk out in that giant crowd, bro.
Pull out a megaphone slowly.
Yeah. But it's like they were cornered. You know, we were standing between them and their way out.
You know, when I was in LA 2 times ago, remember we all went to see Deadpool 2. And it was, you know, us and I think Aaron and Amanda were there, and I had this rental car, and I was driving out of, I think we were at the Grove, and so pulling out of the Grove, and so the Grove's like exit area is kind of this weird, like, you know, it's a parking garage sort of thing, but it gets really narrow. But then there's this one little section where you can cross lanes if you want to, and there's this dude up in one of these lanes, and he can't get his ticket to work, and so everyone's just behind him like honking, and so, but our lane is going fine, so I'm like pulling in, and as I'm pulling in, there's like a little space between me and the car in front of me, and this Chevy Volt like jumps like right in, like, and I hit the thing, I honk, and I like the old LA thing comes right back to me, and I yelled like, you know, some expletive, you stupid whatever, and the guy turns and looks at me, and it's Alan Tudyk. And then I think Comic-Con was like the next weekend, and my brother and sister-in-law were going to go get his autograph at Comic-Con. I was like, tell him that he almost hit me at the Grove last week. They didn't, but I thought that would have been great. And also, why is he driving a Chevy Volt? Get a Prius at least, right?
Well,
got that Rogue One money now.
Ready Player One, you know, Ben Mendelsohn. I saw him one morning. I think me and Natalie we were going somewhere, and this like big Chevy, it was a Chevy truck, or no, it must have been a Jeep because the top and doors were off, pulls up next to us, and there's this dude. I look over, it's Ben Mendelsohn drinking a coffee, smoking a cigarette, listening to Missy Elliott.
Nice.
I was like,
life.
That's awesome.
I was like, I think that is the definition of cool.
Yeah. That was an interesting thing about this movie, by the way, that I think there were only 2 actual American people playing Americans in this whole movie. Like, everyone else was British. Ben Mendelsohn was doing his best American accent. Even the girl who played Artemis, she's from like Dorchester or something. And but it's way more fun to watch a guy like him actually do a British accent, though, like in Rogue One, like playing the real evil British baddie.
Yeah, I wouldn't have minded. He could have been, like, who cares?
Yeah,
It's
I don't
kind of a
really get
global
that.
movie.
And same thing with when I was watching Molly's Game a little bit today. Idris Elba kind of puts on an American accent, and it works. It's fine. It's very The Wire. But you're not going to get, especially nowadays, you're not going to even think twice about a British guy being a lawyer in Chicago. You know, it's just not even going to like really bother you, or you're not even going to think about it. I wouldn't have even thought
that's something
twice
we didn't.
about that.
I don't think we talked about. All right, have we done books to movies before? So so one of the things where I was nervous about seeing this movie from the book thing is obviously when you read a book, all you have is your own imagination. But we see enough movies that you start like auto casting people into it, and it's weird that in my head, I actually had Nathan Fillion as Sorrento.
Interesting.
Yeah. So it was awesome. So it was. It's just weird how your brain makes those associations, even if the character wasn't even described looking like Nathan Fillion. That's immediately like just the way his gruffness, his abruptness, the way that he acted. I was like, that's Nathan Fillion. I had absolutely pegged Simon Pegg as Ogden Morrow. Like that one.
Oh, really?
Was like, yeah, 100%. That was in my head. Yeah. The Halliday character.
That's like perfect casting.
Yeah, Halliday. I don't remember who I chose, and I think it's been overwritten because Rylance does such an amazing job as James Halliday that he has now replaced my visual lexicon as Halliday. I think the main character Parzival, you know, like I think maybe it was just Josh Hutcherson because at the time of reading it, he was, Hunger Games, like he was just kind of in the flow there. I think the casting of H was great. And I think the Artemis character, I wouldn't, just because of the book, it's like she is
Meryl
very
Streep.
attractive. Yeah, right. It's definitely Streep.
She was more of a Daito.
Right. I think that they chose a very attractive young girl to play Artemis. But in my head, because of the downplay on the physical thing, I think just in my head, it's kind of like the, kind of like in like Harry Potter, or Hermione Granger is not supposed to be attractive, but then they got Emma Watson to play her. It's like, well, shit.
It's like, should we cast
I was just gonna
potentially
say
one of the
Hermione.
most beautiful people in the let's do it.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's a tough one, but it was interesting because they saw Ben Mendelsohn. I was like, I don't know if that's gonna work, but that's totally
It worked
fine.
well.
He's awesome.
Yeah, he
Nailed
did a
it.
great job.
I thought it
the,
would have
the
been.
Rylance one was fantastic.
He's
And
awesome though.
Like I said,
Yeah.
Peg. As soon as I read this book, I was like, Simon Pegg's in this movie, right? Like, it's just,
Yeah.
that's done and done, right? We're doing this.
Mark Rylance does that thing that is like the best way to play a character like that. Because I always get so mad at actors when they play a brilliant genius, sort of socially awkward person, in the wrong way, aka Joaquin Phoenix. Always playing them way too dumb. And Rylance played him brilliant, self-aware, full of heart. Like it was just, he played all the right things where you could tell that he knew that he was flawed and that he had made bad choices and that this was some version of his redemption by creating his avatar and creating the games and everything. So it was such a perfect casting, but it was so perfectly played. There was just, and he's kind of magical with Spielberg too. He was in Bridge of Spies. And he's brilliant in that movie. I mean, he's great in everything, but it's sort of one of those magical director actor sort of combinations.
Yeah, and Rylance's performance there too is, if you think about it, the real kicker is the pace of his words.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's not in a rush to mow through his dialogue.
Yeah.
And there's even parts where he's just kind of pausing and, I wish we could kind of go back. Like that's that's how people talk. Like so he nails that part as opposed to just being like the super excited, like going at it. Like he's got a great pacing of speech when he says at the end, thanks for playing my game. And it truly does roll that back to like, he was never in it to be a trillionaire. Like he just wanted friends, man. And that's the part that's like,
and he
they
loved video
nailed
games.
that character part. Yeah. Of just
like, I'm really glad they didn't just make him like Steve Jobs, and just be like,
super eccentric Elon Musk nutballs.
Yeah. But so I had a thought. Let's talk about this. At the end when you said, thank you for playing my game. Because when Parzival asks him when they're in his old bedroom, it's like, you're not an avatar, are you? No. Is James Halliday dead? And doesn't answer. It's like, what do you guys think about that? Do you think there's something to that?
Oh, does he not answer?
I thought he said, yeah, he's dead. So, and then he says, what are you? And then he doesn't answer.
Oh, that's what it was. But still leaves it ambiguous.
Yeah. No, I think that's easy to imply that he has, transferred consciousness to, because so look at it this way. If not consciousness, it's AI, because there's a point where the scripting that his avatar has during the interaction with each of the avatars is not like the classic. I'll parody it to Jumanji when they're talking to the AI character and he's got like 7 lines to say. Like he makes jokes about, do you want the key or not, when he's kind of stumbling around, and so like that is interacting with those people in a conscious way, as opposed to, you have reached the end, take your prize.
I am the preset.
You have reached the end, take your prize. Like it's not that, it's interaction. So it does lead into either it's his consciousness or an AI version of it embedded in the system, so that he will truly, live forever, kind of thing. That's what I took from it. I think it's great.
Yeah.
No, that's what I took too. I was just like, it was just a nice little character moment, a nice little story moment.
Yeah.
Oh,
Like I think my favorite holiday moment is when they're replaying when they have the press and they're showing them the Oasis. It's like, now if you guys will look under your chairs, you'll see that there's nothing there.
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Well, the beginning of that scene that just shows him and like Simon Pegg's trying to be all polished and whatever, and talking to the audience, and he's just sitting there going,
Yeah. Yeah. Doesn't
like,
even
okay,
care.
shut
I love
up.
it.
No, don't do that. No, let's just show them.
Yeah.
But yeah, watching him makes me want to watch Bridge of Spies because I've never watched it.
Oh yeah.
Oh man.
I've only seen it once.
I haven't
in the
properly
theaters.
Add it to your
seen a
list.
bunch of it.
Yeah.
Good movie.
Well, it's got Tom Hanks in it too.
Mm-hmm.
So
Oh yeah, that's true.
just ballpark.
The Hanks.
Yeah. Lots of good ingredients.
I think I saw it when it came out in the theater, but haven't seen it since. Probably should revisit that at some point in time.
I bought it. Yeah, it's good.
Sort of one of those that you don't realize, probably like on Netflix or something. Had that today because I was searching for something on Netflix, and whatever I searched for, wasn't on Netflix. But then there were a lot of movies on there that I didn't even realize were. You're just going through the list, you're like, dang.
Well,
that's
it's
on
July
Netflix?
1st. I mean, they do a rollover.
Oh yeah, that's true.
So I think we should have a weekly feature on the podcast where Nick tells a movie theater story.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. That'll be one of the hooks.
Or we do a stupid pitch. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
here's my dumb idea for a thing.
Yeah. It's called.
Oh, yeah.
My
Drumstick
idea
Man.
for this.
Here's your
Would-
smoking hot tip: don't talk during movies, because I will
Smoking
find
hot
you.
curmudgeon story.
I really kind of want to make this movie, but that I didn't have any of the licensing for anything good, so it's all like the third level of knockoff. So it's like, we got Pound Puppies in there. Now, what's the thing that was like a ripoff of Pound Puppies?
Yeah.
That's the best we could do. And
You got
Gutter
GoBots.
dogs.
yeah.
Gutter butts.
Remember that cartoon Mask? Yeah, we got stuff from that.
I remember I had like a third tier because there was Transformers and then GoBots, and then there was something else that was in like Happy Meals, and so it was even an even worse GoBot or like nothing connected. Yeah, that would be great.
They didn't really just transform; they just unfolded.
Yeah, I think I even had like a knockoff RoboCop too, which is pretty great.
Police machine.
Yeah. All of his paint peeled off in the bathtub.
Nice. Oh man.
Not healthy. Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Well, that was a good one. So, watch Ready Player One. What did you rate it there, Nico?
Oh, Cinco out of Cinco. 5 out of 5. Absolutely.
Oh yeah, the big Cinco.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Did it win any Oscars?
No.
Was it nominated?
No.
I think it was nommed for, visual effects, and I want to say something like sound editing or sound design, something along those lines.
Which it totally deserved. I mean, visual effects.
Yeah,
come
it was.
on.
I think it did get some technical nods, but it was too diverse to be like, best actor, or,
Right.
or not even best
Sure.
adapted screenplay, because it's so far from the original source that it's almost an original screenplay at that point.
Yeah,
So-
I feel like they both are kind of their own thing, the book and the movie,
Yeah.
for
Right.
sure.
Right, absolutely. Which I'm not mad at. Like I said, the book
No.
as written is a terrible movie, just because there's a lot of dead air in that time between challenge 1 and 2. And I think actually the if you want to call it like the nerd core competency of one of those middle challenges is so deep into the nerd culture that even I had a hard time keeping up with it, because it was a deep cut.
Yeah.
It was just like, man.
But the one that the final challenge, as told in the movie, I thought was just like the perfect blend of geek culture and something people could understand, because Adventure was a really weird, awkward game, but it had that screen where you carried the Easter egg
first
over
Easter
to.
egg, absolutely.
Yeah, and so it made sense and it was fun to watch, and yeah, it was just a cool blend. Is that how the movie actually? Is that the actual final challenge? in the book.
believe
Pretty
so.
much. Pretty
Yeah.
much.
It's not. It doesn't take place in Vader's castle, but it where does it take? I would need to go back, to be honest.
I thought it's Anorak's castle. That's where I thought it was.
Well, yeah, it's Anorak's castle, but in the movie, it's based off of
Castle.
Darth Vader's castle on.
Oh yeah.
Darth Vader has a
Right.
castle?
Oh yeah,
When does he have a castle?
he's got it's in some of like the exterior the stuff. He goes back to was it Mustafar? No,
Mustafar, yeah.
Yeah, he goes back to Mustafar, and that's where he builds like his little house
In what?
on the lava fields, which is also where
Because
Kylo
he doesn't
Ren
want to
goes
remember what
in
happened.
episode
there.
9
Where
to
I
get
lost my
He
legs.
get
watched.
the-
They go there in Rogue One.
also
I
in Rogue
think
One.
it's Sullust, maybe? That might be Sullust. Yeah, they make it seem like it's Mustafar, but I don't know if it is.
I feel like a bad nerd. When did this
No, that's
happen? When did he
Bad
build his
nerd.
castle?
Very
Man,
bad
that's-
nerd.
That's
Bad.
very outer edge knowledge.
This is in a book when he does this, or when does he build his chocolate castle?
It's in the comic book, and I think it's
Oh.
in one of like the companion novel sets. They talk about it, but
Okay.
it's definitely in the comic.
Gotcha. That's a little. That's
Yeah,
reaching
so that's
right there.
that's periphery type stuff.
Good for you for
And
knowing
then they
it.
go,
but-
oh no, Star Wars is heavily featured.
Yeah,
Vader's castle, huh?
it may as well be
But he had his
Cinderella's
own
castle.
Restaurant.
Yeah,
Well, it is funny that like
a private
think
club in the
about-
back.
one of like the
Vader's
classic
castle.
things when they're doing like the
Gets
final
some
scene with all the
upstairs.
battles and stuff like that. There isn't a single lightsaber to be found,
Right.
which there would be lightsabers
Mhm.
Oh
in
yeah.
this world. But then I also do love like the ultra like the Krull, like that's super good.
Cool.
The thing that
Like
Show
Vader.
throws at IROC,
Mm.
that's the Krull blade from the movie Krull. Starring it has Liam Neeson in it, but
Wow.
Movie
yeah,
from
that's
my other podcast that I still haven't watched. Was The Dummy, and I was like, I'll watch it at some point.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
yeah, Krull's good too. But yeah, I think you could probably find it on YouTube. There's definitely people that have gone through frame by frame and just like cataloged all the cultural
Oh yeah, I
references.
found that too. There's a
where
list,
they come from.
there's a full Easter egg list, like everything that's on there.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of things that you notice, but there's a lot of things that you don't like Serenity's in there and things like that. What
Yeah.
were you thinking?
I just was like, another Easter egg could be, what did they call that list? It's a Steven Spielberg movie. If I was to make a list and call it by a name,
Old
what would
Schindler.
I do?
Oh.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
list
black
of
and white.
Easter eggs. Yeah.
I saw that list and it just kind of made my head spin. So I was like, I can't look at this.
Yeah.
Oh, it's insane because
long.
there's like I said, there's nostalgic references, but then there's like from the game Overwatch, like the little
Mhm.
speedster character shows up 3 times in the movie. There's Borderlands, which I just saw on this viewing. I saw a Borderlands thing in there, but there's also an anime called Ruby, RWBY, that is made by the guys who do Rooster Teeth, who did like Red versus Blue.
Mhm.
There's some Ruby stuff in there, so there's like some nostalgic. There's like Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat, but then there's like the Halo Marines or the Spartans are running around. Then you've got like people that are non-nostalgic avatar. Like Parsival is a non-nostalgic avatar, and Artemis is a non-nostalgic. All the main characters are
Right.
non-nostalgic avatars, but then people do have nostalgic avatars.
Mhm.
Like there's the Joker shows up in like 3 different iterations, and Harley Quinn's in there twice in 2 different iterations. The gun that IROC uses is from this obscure video game. That's where the gun is powered by human souls. It's bonkers. So like they did a good job of mixing in generalized, like the DeLorean, Millennium Falcon, and like a little bit deeper, like Serenity and like Harley Quinn. And then there's some that are such high tier,
Like Vader's
nostalgic stuff that
castle.
like Vader's castle, that you gotta,
Dumbledore's castle.
like you have to know in
Yeah.
order to get it. And that's a hard balance, but I think they did a really good job of not going so deep to the point where people are watching it and going, I don't know any of this. I don't recognize
Yeah.
any of it. versus just having like a million Ferris Buellers running around. Like,
But
no.
yeah, you can have like a good time with it if you just are not a pop culture person at all. It's still a fun movie. I think it still is enjoyable.
Oh yeah, the story holds up. Like the base
Oh, the
plot of
nerd's making a big nerd thing. Got it.
Yeah.
That's what
Yeah,
Check.
it's got legs on its
Bro
own.
guy was.
Yeah. Scroll on Facebook while I watch the movie. I didn't have
What's
I didn't
up,
have one of those
Derby?
moments. The whole
You didn't have
movie.
the check your watch moment.
No, not the whole time. I was super into it. So that's a
You have
good.
No, it holds.
Huh? Oh no, I had some Jeffy moments for sure. There's always Jeffy moments. Even when the dragon was getting attacked, I had a Jeffy moment. Even-
The Mecha Godzilla.
Mecha
yeah, the
Godzilla?
Mega Godzilla. Yeah, small. I
The
don't know what it
Jeffy
is.
moment.
Oh, Brian.
Toward-
Oh, you got to tell
Yeah.
what Jeffy moment is.
So every
Patent
time,
pending.
yeah,
Trademark.
every time I see usually an animal, like a sad animal, or pretty much anything that is helpless or being hurt. Typically animals, sometimes children, weaker characters. It makes me think of Jeff, my dog, Jefferson.
Oh,
And it makes me so sad because Jeffy, when I first got him, he was just so small and weak and vulnerable. Now he's a big jerk, but he used to be so like weak and tiny. And so whenever I see something small and tiny being picked on in a movie, I have a Jeffy moment. It makes me think of Jeff. It makes me sad. So that's why it's hard to go to movies, because if I have a Jeffy moment, I can't just reach over and pet him. So I like watching stuff at home because then I can be like, oh, there's Jeffy, he's fine. So I'll have those pretty
The baby
frequently.
Bjorn with Jeffy into
Yeah,
the
yeah.
theater. He's my seeing eye Jeffy.
He's my Jeffy moment
My
support
wellness
dog.
Support animal.
They're like,
Just-
sir, is a Jeffy moment a real thing? Yes.
is
Look
Jeff's
at that
is
asshole. Jeffy
our
moment
tennis
thing.
ball still Jeff's number one and only love?
Oh yeah, absolutely. No, it's funny. He sleeps with me now. He never really used to, but now he like really like snuggles in and sleeps on my legs now. And he's managed to figure out that if he sleeps completely sideways and stretches himself all the way out, it's hard to sleep on my bed. So now that's just my life. But it's so cute. But then I start petting him and he growls at me. So I don't know. I don't know about him. Yeah, he's a ham bone.
Does Buster sleep on the floor?
Yeah, Buster tends to roam a lot. He's like a roamer. He always has to go in and out.
Roomba.
Patrolling
Yeah,
the house.
yeah,
for,
yeah,
looking for
exactly.
things.
Yeah, looking for stuff to bark at. It's kind of his life is protecting the house. Yeah,
Nice.
but ham bones, always a tennis ball nearby.
Or just like permanently glued to his mouth.
Yeah, almost always. Yeah, it's pretty much there all the
I
time.
like when you throw a ball and he's like got a ball in his mouth and he's like,
Yeah,
okay.
doesn't know what to do with it.
There's a promise of another ball, so
Yeah.
I got to get that ball.
He always has to pick one up before he chases it. That's his thing. Yesterday I threw a ball for him and it like hit a rock and like shot up in the air and he jumped higher than I've ever seen him jump, and like the dog curly back thing, right? He catches it, but he already had a ball in his mouth. So as he jumps, he drops the one ball, catches the second ball, lands on the ground, and he sees the other ball as he comes down and he stops it with his foot. I was like,
wow.
yeah, it was magical.
He's like John Wick with
Yeah.
tennis balls.
He's dog wick. Sir, you can't bring this dog into the movie theater. This is Jeff Wick.
Yeah.
This is Jeffy Wick.
The dog, the Baba Yaga.
Yeah.
He got a little black suit on. Yeah.
Yeah. He wasn't always like this. Somebody killed his dog, and now he's out for blood.
Getting all the tennis balls out.
Someone popped his tennis
Burying
ball.
dog.
His wife gave him a tennis ball for his birthday, and someone popped it. And now he will not rest.
Yeah.
Well, we're making that movie, I guess. That was my pitch.
Yep.
Yep.
There's your pitch.
Yeah. Jeffy Wick.
That's close. My stupid one, real quick, is a cop, like, a real hard-boiled detective, like accidentally he's going after a drug cartel, and he somehow destroys like a daycare, and so he's ordered by a sergeant or something like, okay, you're off that case for a month, you're suspended. and you have to hang out with this toddler. You have to take care of this toddler. So it's like he gets his partner, and it's a toddler, and he's like, oh, and so it's like Clint Eastwood, and then this little stupid toddler, and he's like, you know what? I know I can crack this drug cartel. So then he just keeps being the detective, and there's the toddler in the car with him
all the time.
And then at the end, it builds up to when he has the big shootout with the cartel, like on the docks or whatever. He just puts the kid in a baby Bjorn and puts ear defenders on his ears, and then just goes out, like knowing that the bad guys will hesitate to shoot a toddler, and he'll just use that split second to just murder everybody.
What's it called?
Junior Justice? I'm still working on it. Not sure.
Baby Bjorn to live?
Baby Bjorn to die, yeah.
Wow.
But yeah,
Oh man.
that's
We're
the
doing
kind of
it.
crap I come up with.
It's good. We could probably smush Jeffy Wick and Baby Born to die together into one movie, and then Jeffy could be in the Baby Bjorn, and people were just like, they're not going to shoot a puppy. Well, they would in John Wick, I guess, but
Let's say that's pretty much how it starts.
yeah, that's pretty much the movie, right?
Yeah.
That's what the guy on like the lookout, and he's just like talking about his ex-wife or whatever, and the kid's just like, I like toddlers. And they just, it's like he just hates the kid. And
Just tugging on him. Go pee pee. Go pee. Go pee pee.
God, yeah. I can
It's
beat
basically
this.
Dad,
Kindergarten
I
Cop.
gotta poop.
Kindergarten Cop meets Lethal Weapon.
Yeah.
Yeah, sounds perfect. Well, everybody, thanks for listening. Hope you enjoyed it. I think that the last 10 minutes of the show were worth the 2.5 hours.
You're welcome,
Yeah.
ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah. So stay tuned for next week, where we'll have more movie theater stories from Nick, more movie pitches from Eric, and we'll see Brian go from perfectly lit to this. You know we've gone too far when it's completely dark in Brian's apartment.
When you are in silhouette.
Yeah.
I gotta come up with a lighting
We'll
situation.
get you a light.
No, I like it. It's
Yeah.
pretty great.
No, it helps us time out the podcast. We're just like, when it looks like
Like,
there's...
oh, now it's dark way out on the West Coast.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
boy,
we must have gone over time.
just stop.
It's like, can't see Brian anymore. It's time to be done.
Yeah. All right, folks, thanks for listening. We'll see you